Welcome in. It's 12:30 here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. I'm Nick Sturdivant. We want to head now to a special report from NBC. Here's Tom Yamas.
Dollar bail bond right now. Let's listen to what Los Angeles Police Department Chief Jim McConnell said at a separate news conference in this last hour.
Yesterday at December 14th, about 3:40 in the afternoon, LAPD responded to a residence, the residence of Rob and Michelle Reiner, located in West Los Angeles Division. At that location, they found two deceased adults, a male and a female. Through the night, working with the coroner's office, they were able to identify them definitively as Rob and Michelle Reiner. We have our Robbery Homicide Division handling the investigation. They worked throughout the night on this case and were able to take into custody Nick Reiner, a suspect in this case. He was subsequently booked for murder and is being held on $4 million bail. Pretty much that's what I can share at this point, but again, a very, very tragic incident.
Joining me now is NBC News correspondent Morgan Chesky, who's live outside the Brentwood home of the Reiners, where this horrific crime took place. Rob Reiner is such a big force both in Hollywood and across the country and for generations across America.
Yeah, that's perfect.
Yeah, Tom, he really is, and I think that's one of the reasons that this stunning news is hitting so incredibly hard. And it was just yesterday that the news broke from this very location that the bodies of both Reiner and his wife had been found. We know that firefighters made the call to LAPD officers who arrived here on scene and sealed it off. And this morning, we witnessed a massive perimeter around this property. We saw that crime scene unit parked all night long as officers went back and forth collecting evidence, building their case, trying to understand what could have led to the horrific circumstances that resulted in the death of both Reiner and his wife, Michelle. As for Nick Reiner, according to records, Tom, he was initially taken into custody around 9:15 last night by members of LAPD. We do not know at this hour what, if any, communication has happened between that 32-year-old son of Rob Reiner and detectives. We do know, though, as you mentioned, he is being held on suspicion of murder in the deaths of both his mother and father. An assistant of the Reiner family made a visit here just a few minutes ago, and I had a chance to briefly speak to him. He says that right now, in light of this shocking news, Everyone is asking for much privacy at this time so they can continue to grieve the loss, as you mentioned, of an absolute Hollywood icon whose works not only spans decades, but genres as well, making this such a tough loss, especially when you consider the recent circumstances that have now come to light here, Tom.
All right, stand by for us, Morgan. In 2016, Rob Reiner joined the Today Show to talk about his son's Nick's struggle with addiction. At the time, Rob had directed a movie written by Nick about substance abuse called Being Charlie. Let's take a listen.
It's not a secret, but my son, Nick, who was one of the writers of the screenplay, had his problems with substance abuse, and he went through a number of rehab programs from the time he was 15 to 19. He's doing very good now. But what I didn't understand is the depth of what he was going through. And the process of making this film not only forced me to see what he was experiencing, but I think it forced him to see what I went through and what his mother went through. And hopefully the film is a reflection of that.
The Reiner son Nick's problems with addictions, battles with addictions were very well known throughout Hollywood. And the Reiners, as you saw right there, were openly talking about it, hoping to get Nick help. And now Nick is being held on suspicion of murdering his parents. NBC News entertainment correspondent Chloe Melas joins us now. Chloe, talk to us about this relationship, which had played out in the public eye for a while, but of course to the Reiners was so personal and so deeply troubling and hurtful.
Tom, that's right. So this movie that Rob Reiner directed, based on the relationship that he had with his son's addiction with drugs and alcohol, was really the first time that they really pulled back the curtain. And Rob Reiner gave multiple interviews about this film in 2016 alongside his son. And his son talked about his years-long struggle that began around the age of 15, and that he was in and out of rehab, that he experienced years of homelessness. And his father, Rob, said that he really wanted to make this movie Being Charlie because he wanted it to be relatable to other families that also had family members struggling with addiction, Tom. And he also said something that is resonating with a lot of people. Rob Reiner said in an interview at the Toronto International Film Festival at the time that when Nick would tell us that it wasn't working for him, we wouldn't listen. We were desperate, and because the people had diplomas on their wall, we listened to them when we should have been listening to our son. And, you know, his son, Nick, he also gave an interview around that same time saying that he didn't understand why he was living on the streets, why he said, I came from a nice family. I didn't understand why I was doing all of these messed up things, and how much he loved his parents, and that doing this film, Being Charlie, really brought him closer to his father. But again, he had talked about how this relationship was tumultuous with his parents. And because of that movie, Being Charlie, a decade ago, we have this inside look into the tumultuous relationship between him and his parents and how it escalated over the years. But then they came back together. So it's unclear what happened over the last couple of years with this relationship, and why they were together over the last couple days and what led to this. And obviously, this is something that we are learning more details on, Tom, as this story progresses. But incredibly tragic. And I do want to also point out that there's been an outpouring of condolences in Hollywood. One of those is Kathy Bates, who spoke to NBC News. She won an Oscar for her leading role in the movie Misery that was directed by Rob Reiner. And she told NBC, I'm horrified hearing this terrible news, absolutely devastated. I loved Rob, and that he fought courageously for his political beliefs, and that also, if it wasn't for him, obviously, this role changed her life.
All right, Chloe, stand by for us. I want to bring back Morgan. Morgan, we heard Chloe there talking about Kathy Bates, and she mentioned his sort of political stances and what he worked for when he was not directing and producing movies in Hollywood. When this crime first happened, it was unclear exactly what had occurred behind those gates we see there behind you, because, as we had mentioned, he was such a public figure, but also he was very proud of his liberal politics, and he was always very outspoken. On top of that, you have covered, and the rest of our NBC News team out there in LA have covered the celebrity homes that have been targeted, but it turned out it was nothing like that at all. It was all very personal.
Yeah, Tom, that's right. And authorities, while they weren't sharing much, they did make it clear in a press conference last night that they did not believe the surrounding neighborhood here in Brentwood was at risk of any sort of potential danger. We now know that because the fact that, of course, Nick has been taken into custody. As for what happens now, Tom, investigators are going to continue to build their case. He's being held on suspicion of murder. We're awaiting those formal charges that may come later today or potentially even tomorrow. We also anticipate a coroner's report to be released that could detail the cause of death for both Reiner and his wife. We know a source close to the family initially shared that both of them were stabbed. So that will shed some new insight into this incredibly tragic case here, especially with a member of their own family now behind bars. Facing formal charges in the death of both Rob Reiner and his wife, Michelle. Tom.
Morgan, before you go, because you live out there in Los Angeles, tell our viewers, what is the mood like right now? Because he was such a larger-than-life figure in Hollywood, somebody who had done both television and movies again that span generations, and now he's lost.
Tom, it's a fact that I think it's tough for people to wrap their heads around because the creations, the works of Rob Reiner touched so many different people in their deepest emotions. He shared that the film that meant the most to him was Stand By Me, that powerful coming-of-age movie with the multiple characters that everyone could see a little bit of themselves in. Here in this Brentwood neighborhood that is very private and very quiet, we've seen a couple people walking by in front of the gate, just kind of acknowledging the gravity of this tragedy as more and more cameras arrive to document something that, up until 24 hours ago, no one could have conceived, no one could have imagined. And so it is very heavy here today, particularly in light of what we've learned from police within the last hour or so here. Tom?
Yeah, you think about all those movies like you mentioned, Stand By Me, A Few Good Men, When Harry Met Sally, so many classics again. And he did so much for philanthropic causes as well. All right, Morgan, we thank you for that. That concludes this NBC News Special Report. I'm Tom Llamas. We thank you so much for watching. We'll have more on Nightly News tonight.
All right, as Tom Llamas just mentioned, that is the conclusion of that special report. And as more information comes in on the death investigation, when it comes to Rob Reiner and his wife, Michelle Singer Reiner, we will make sure to pass it along to you here on Live Impact News and on our digital platforms and over on WCNC Charlotte. Let's take a quick break. We'll be back here in just 2 minutes here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. Welcome back here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. I'm Nick Sturdivant. We are tracking some breaking news out of Matthews. So multiple agencies are responding to a fire that happened in a neighborhood there in Matthews. So multiple fire departments on the scene of a structure fire in Matthews near Interstate 485. Our James Brierton, digital producer James Brierton, is on the scene right now. Let's check in with James.
Crews have extinguished a fire here in Matthews. We see behind us right now that some of the equipment is beginning to be stowed away and firefighters are beginning to wrap things up. We think in the next few minutes, Pleasant Plains Road could be opening back up here. At about 11 o'clock this morning, what happened was a fire started at a utility building here in the Brightmoor neighborhood. So this is Brightmoor and Pleasant Plains. We're just adjacent to Interstate 485 between Matthews and Stallings. And when the fire was at its strongest point, it was putting a plume of smoke high up over Interstate 485, and although all lanes of traffic were open, drivers could certainly notice the smoke and the haze that was coming off of that fire. Firefighters shut down this neighborhood and worked their way in. We saw a ladder truck that gave them kind of an aerial view over the fire as they worked to extinguish it. They ran fire hoses back here across Pleasant Plains Road to where some of these fire hydrants are located. Now it's been about an hour since the fire call first came in, and we've now seen fire marshals head on back to begin their investigation into the cause of the fire. But from here in Matthews, I'm James Brierton.
All right, and James is still on the scene there with our Kevin Wardlaw, photojournalist. And as more information comes in about this fire and this investigation, we will update you here on Live Impact News, WCNC Plus, and WCNC Charlotte. All right, so we want to get to a news conference that happened moments before we got on. 4 people arrested in the Los Angeles area for a New Year's Eve a bombing plot, according to the FBI. Now, 4 alleged members of an extremist group were arrested on suspicion of planning coordinated bombings on New Year's Eve in the Los Angeles area. Again, that's according to federal authorities. They held a press conference with LAPD just moments ago. Let's take a listen in.
Attorney's Office for the Central District of California. Over the weekend, my office, along with the FBI, arrested members of a far-left, anti-government domestic terror cell who self-identify as the Turtle Island Liberation Front. The individuals were arrested on Friday, December 12th, when the group attempted to construct and detonate IEDs out in the desert. In addition to the arrests, we executed several search warrants throughout the nation. I want to thank our partners at the U.S. Attorney's Office for the Western District of Louisiana, U.S. Attorney Zach Keller, and the U.S. Attorney for the District of Massachusetts, Lee Foley, for providing valuable assistance over the weekend with a very complex and coordinated search warrants that were done. The charges we are announcing today stem from the defendants and their co-conspirators' detailed coordinated plot to bomb multiple U.S. companies on New Year's Eve. Thankfully, that plot has now been foiled thanks to the hard work of the FBI and the Department of Justice. This investigation was initiated in part due to the September 2025 executive order signed by President Trump to root out left-wing domestic terror organizations in our country, such as Antifa and other radical groups like the Turtle Island Liberation Front. As the president made clear, recent attacks across the country have highlighted the grave threats posed by these far-left domestic terror groups. These threats are sophisticated, organized campaigns of targeted intimidation, radicalization, threats, and violence designed to silence opposing speech, limit political activity, and direct policy outcomes, and prevent the proper functioning of a democratic society. In direct response to the President's order, the Attorney General issued a memo to our offices implementing and mobilizing federal law enforcement to prioritize and counter domestic terrorism and political violence investigations. As a result of those directives, we built this case. Both my office and the FBI have invested substantial resources into investigating and charging these organizations. And if anyone does not believe that members of these groups are organized, sophisticated, and extremely violent, let me tell you about the plot in this case. The four defendants are Audrey Carroll, 30 years old. The pictures, I think we have them somewhere. We'll put them up here. Audrey Carroll, 30 years old. Zachary Aaron Page, 32. Dante Gaffield, 24. And Tina Lay, 41. Each from the Los Angeles area. Each is charged with conspiracy and possession of an unregistered destructive device in violation of Title 26, United States Code Section 5861D. We intend to file additional charges in the coming weeks as we finish reviewing the evidence. The defendants are all radical anti-government members of the Turtle Island Liberation Front, which, according to their own social media, is an anti-capitalist, anti-government movement that calls for their associates to rise up and fight back against capitalism. One of the leaders of the organization, defendant Audrey Carroll, helped organize an even more radical faction of the group called the Order of the Black Lotus. Each of the defendants charged today was also a member of the Order of the Black Lotus. Carroll described this group to her co-conspirators as everything radical. As detailed in the federal complaint, which we will now make public, in November 2025, defendant Carroll created a detailed bombing plot to use explosive devices to attack 5 or more locations across Southern California on this upcoming New Year's Eve. Carroll and her co-defendant Zachary Page led the effort to obtain and build the bombs and to recruit others to join in their plot. Carroll's bomb plot was explicit. It included a step-by-step instructions to build IEDs or improvised explosive devices and listed multiple targets across Orange County and Los Angeles. Carroll also made clear her desires. She said, quote, "What we are doing will be considered a terrorist act." Carroll and Page also discussed plans for follow-up attacks after their bombings, which included plans to target ICE agents and vehicles with pipe bombs. Carroll stated that those plans would, quote, "take some of them out and scare the rest." Throughout early December, the co-conspirators discussed their plans during an in-person meeting in Los Angeles and through an encrypted messaging application. As part of the plan, the 4 defendants plan to build test bombs in the Mojave Desert. You're going to hear more details about the bombs they intended to build and how the operation went down in the desert here shortly from the FBI Assistant Director in charge. In preparation for the plan, the co-conspirators purchased multiple pieces of bomb-making materials and discussed their travel plans to the desert. Last Friday, December 12th, the defendants took a significant step to carry out their plans. They traveled to the remote campsite, which you're going to see some video of, in the desert, and they began unloading their bomb-making materials to assemble and test the bombs. They had everything they needed to make an operational bomb at that location, and they were subsequently arrested by the FBI before they could build a functional explosive device. Shortly after the defendants were taken into custody, the FBI executed multiple search warrants, including at the defendants' Southern California residence and other locations throughout the country. I'll highlight some of the items found during those searches over the weekend. For example, in Carroll's residence, law enforcement found multiple posters and materials associated with Turtle Island Liberation Front, including posters stating, quote, "Death to America, long live Turtle Island and Palestine," and, quote, "Death to ICE, Turtle Island Liberation Front." In Page's residence, law enforcement found a copy of the detailed bomb attack plan. This case is another reminder about the dangers that radicalized Antifa-like groups pose to public safety and the rule of law. Through the tireless work of our prosecutors in my office and our law enforcement partners, which you will hear from today, we disrupted this terror plot before buildings were demolished or innocent people were killed. But this is not the end of our work. My office is committed to extinguishing the far-left terror threats that we face and will continue to work 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. The 4 defendants arrested will make their initial appearance this afternoon at the federal court in downtown Los Angeles. They are each considered innocent until proven guilty. I will now turn it over to the Assistant Director in charge of the FBI LA office, Akil Davis.
Good morning. Again, my name is Akil Davis. I'm the Assistant Director in charge of the FBI's Los Angeles Division. As we're all aware, we've had a busy weekend in this country and abroad with bad news incidents one after another. Today, we are announcing a major victory in our collective effort to protect the American people. The FBI's Joint Terrorism Task Force intercepted a scheme by members of a violent extremist group we believed determined to detonate explosives at multiple businesses on New Year's Eve. Last Friday, the FBI arrested 4 of those subjects near 29 Palms in San Bernardino County while they planned and rehearsed their attack. The 4 subjects are members of a radical faction of the Turtle Island Liberation Front, TILF, a violent, homegrown anti-government group. The subject arrested envisioned planting backpacks with improvised explosive devices to be detonated at multiple locations in Southern California, targeting U.S. companies. These bombs were to blow up at the same time on midnight this New Year's Eve. The plan stated that the IEDs would be complex pipe bombs. It included instructions on how to manufacture the bombs and contained guidance on how to avoid leaving evidence behind that could be traced back to them. Our investigation uncovered evidence in that the group would test the explosives in the desert. And we're going to show footage of that here in a second. We learned that the alleged co-conspirators had recently started acquiring precursor chemicals and other items necessary to accomplish this task. In recent days, the alleged co-conspirators discussed plans to travel to the desert on the 12th to detonate the explosives. Knowing this, the FBI's JTTF and the FBI Los Angeles field office staged multiple SWAT teams, special agent bomb technicians, our evidence response team, along with the FBI's elite hostage rescue team in the desert to disrupt this plan before any harm could occur. Because of this, we were able to disrupt their plan. All 4 group members were taken into custody without incident. The TILF Instagram account publicly posts content that advocates for violence against United States officials. A recent post called for a revolution and asked for supporters to organize and be ready. The FBI, as you have seen here, can also organize and be ready. We could not have accomplished these arrests without the exceptional assistance from our partners on the Joint Terrorism Task Force. I specifically want to thank the following agencies, as you see up here today: the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department, the Los Angeles Police Department, the Palm Springs Police Department, along with the San Bernardino County Sheriff's Department. I also want to recognize the following FBI field offices, as this.
All right, so that is a press conference from just moments ago. LA officials, FBI officials discussing a terrorist attack, or I should say that's a terrorism task force, but they are having a press conference regarding 4 alleged members of an extremist group who were arrested on suspicions of planning and coordinated bombings on New Year's Eve in the LA area. So they were updating us on that investigation, on those arrests. Let's take a quick break. We'll be back here in just 2 minutes here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. Welcome back here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. I'm Nick Sertivant. We want to talk about a campaign that has made its way to the Carolinas. Project Hood, and Pastor Corey Brooks, founder of Project Hood, making its way through the Carolinas on the Walk Across America campaign, a national journey to raise awareness and support for building a community center on Chicago's South Side. Pastor Brooks is walking coast to coast to highlight the challenges facing underserved communities and neighborhoods. And we have Pastor Brooks here on the show. Pastor Brooks, thank you for your time. Thank you for your flexibility, too.
Absolutely. Thank you. No problem. When you're walking across America, you can be as flexible as you want to be. So I appreciate it.
Look, I understand that. Let's start from the beginning. Project Hood, for folks here in the Carolinas, you're in Greenville, South Carolina. Talk about what Project Hood is and the mission for you guys.
Yeah, Project Hood. Hood stands for Helping Others Obtain Destiny. It's a non-for-profit on the south side of Chicago in one of America's toughest neighborhoods. It's called O Block, named after a young man named O.D. Perry who was shot and killed. The gangs took the O in his name and started calling it O Block. It's actually King Drive. We decided to keep the O and we call it Opportunity Block now. And we're trying to transform that very tough area to make it a model for what can be done in urban areas across America. So we started this non-for-profit. We offer many transforming programs that will help an individual take responsibility for their lives. Our focus is getting people out of violence and poverty, one life at a time, one neighborhood at a time. And we are doing a great job. The neighborhood is totally being transformed. And I can really say we're no longer the most dangerous block in all of America. We're working hard to make it a block that has the most opportunities.
So you are in the middle of the Walk Across America campaign, coast to coast. You started in New York in September. You made your way here to the Carolinas. Look, you still got some ways to go before you get to Los Angeles. How did this campaign start and why? Because this is an ambitious undertaking.
Yeah. We really believe what we're doing will work in urban and rural areas that are looking to help their blocks and neighborhoods make a comeback. We believe every neighborhood can make a comeback if they take responsibility and not wait on government. We've decided we're not going to wait on government to change our situation. We're going to roll up our sleeves and get busy and do it ourselves. So we're in the midst of building a 90,000 square foot leadership and economic opportunity that cost upward of $50 million. We've raised $40 million, and we want to continue to raise the rest so that we can be debt free. So thus, the Walk Across America came into play because we have 4 things that we're trying to accomplish. Number 1, we want to pay off that center so that it's debt free. Number 2, we want to build a private classical Christian school for boys and girls, 2 separate schools. 3, we want to build an endowment so that we can continue to fund the things that we want to do. And then 4, we want to plant Project Hoods in urban and rural areas, neighborhoods that need a comeback. And so we figured this Walk Across America would be a good way to bring attention and awareness to what we do, but also to help us to raise the funds that are much needed to help us to accomplish everything that we're trying to accomplish.
As I mentioned before, you're in Greenville, South Carolina, not too far. That's a short drive for folks here in Charlotte. But you were in Charlotte. A big topic here in Charlotte, public safety, crime. Those have been the big concerns. Those have been making the headlines. What were your takeaways from your time here in Charlotte?
Well, one of the things I was there listening to what happened with the one of the brothers who got stabbed by an immigrant, and I come to find out that there's been an uptick in violence in Charlotte. But not just in Charlotte, there's an uptick in violence across America, especially in urban areas and areas that are growing like Charlotte. As Charlotte continues to grow, they're going to continue to have these problems and they're going to continue to spread. I used to say in Chicago that oftentimes a lot of people feel like, oh, that's not us, that's not our problem. But what they don't understand is that violence is like a cancer. If you don't deal with it, it will spread. And it'll start to spread in areas that you have not seen violence. And so Charlotte has some very beautiful areas. And I was amazed at just how beautiful Charlotte is. But I'm mighty afraid that if they don't deal with the violence that they're starting to see the uptick in, it's going to spread to some of those beautiful areas. So you got to get a hold of it. You got to deal with it. You got to face it head on. And you got to acknowledge it, not ignore it. and then you got to put the plans and the processes and strategies in place to eradicate it. And I believe that you can get rid of a lot of the violence, not just in Charlotte, but in a lot of these urban areas across America, if we all work together and if we all collaborate. And I understand that there's in common that we need to work on.
You as you mentioned, you got a chance to see how beautiful the Charlotte area it is. It is a beautiful community. It's a diverse community. It's a robust community. There are beautiful people here. What were those conversations like with the folks here?
Yeah, a lot of them were interested in what was going on in Chicago because they were starting to see some of the similarities with the violence starting to spread. So we talked a lot about the violence. We talked a lot about how important education is for the young people. We talked a lot about making sure that we have programs, especially the trades. One of the things that we're doing in Chicago at our center is that we're really focused on helping young men to get rid of their illegal lifestyles by learning trades. And I think that's a viable opportunity, especially in North Carolina and South Carolina, where you have jobs that are, the market is growing, the opportunities are available. And there's a great need for individuals who are in carpentry, HVAC, plumbing, those type of roofing. And so there's going to need to be centers and schools that can train individuals so they can live the lifestyles that would help Charlotte continue to grow and the Carolinas.
Since you started this campaign in September, what have you learned about yourself? Because you've already trekked a lot of miles. You still got a lot more miles to go. What have you learned about yourself?
I've learned that, that my faith and what I believe is really big. The fact that I realize that I cannot accomplish these things that we're trying to do on the south side of Chicago and in America by myself. It takes a great team. It takes a lot of support. And so I'm learning to lean more, not on myself, but one, on God, two, on my team, and three, on donors across America to help us to get across the finish line. So I'm learning that I'm not Superman, and I wish I was, but you need a lot of people, you need a lot of support if you're going to do major things in the world.
You're not Superman, but you are embarking on a Herculean task. Again, Pastor Corey Brooks here, Project Hood, Walk Across America. Before I let you go, you had a little bit of self-reflection there. What do you hope happens the rest of your journey as you make your way to California?
Well, I hope to spread the word about Project Hood and what we're doing, and I hope to inspire individuals to take control of their neighborhoods. One of the things that I'm seeing across America is that a lot of times we just give up and we don't have the faith, we don't have the hope or the tenacity. But I'm hoping that I can inspire people that, listen, if this guy can help take over O Block, one of the toughest blocks in America, and transform it, then I could do the same thing in my rural area, my county area, my city, my block. So I really want to inspire people to pick up the mantle and do the work, and they can follow the work, they can follow the walk and follow what we're doing and be inspired on projecthood.org. That's our website. And they can continue to follow us as we head to Atlanta, then cross on over to start going west toward Los Angeles, California.
Pastor Brooks, thank you for your time. Walk Across America, Project Hood. If you have some time, look up what they're doing. Be safe out there. I mean, again, you got a lot of miles under your belt. You still got more miles to go. Be safe out there.
Thank you, Nick. I appreciate it. And thanks to all the people in Charlotte. And thank you all for giving us some coverage. We really appreciate it.
Of course. Thank you for your time, Pastor Brooks. All right, let's take a quick break. We'll be back here in just 2 minutes here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. Welcome back here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. I'm Nick Sertivant. As we mentioned at the top of the show, multiple agencies responding earlier to a fire in the neighborhood in Matthews. Let's get over to digital producer James Brierton with an update.
We're in Matthews where firefighters are cleaning up a scene. What's behind me is what is left of a small community building used for concessions and storage here in the Brightmoor community. At about 11 a.m. this morning, Matthews Fire Department, along with Charlotte Fire Department and Stallings Fire Department, came here to the Brightmoor community. As you can see, a large structure fire that at its peak was putting a plume up into the sky. We are just adjacent to Interstate 485 here in Matthews, between Matthews and Stallings. So they brought in firefighters from multiple fire departments. We saw them run hoses to fire hydrants down the street in order to bring in ample water to put out this fire, which they had under control within an hour or so. Right now, Fire Marshal is investigating the cause of this fire, which remains under investigation. In Matthews, I'm James Brierton.
All right, so that was James with an update on that fire in the neighborhood in Matthews. As more details come in, we will continue to update you here on WCNC Plus. All right, so we want to get back to that press conference. LAPD, FBI announcing 4 alleged members of an extremist group were arrested on suspicion of planning coordinated bombings on New Year's Eve in the Los Angeles area. That's according to federal authorities. They also gave updates on the Rob Reiner and Michelle Reiner death investigation that we started the show with breaking news at NBC Special Report. Let's take you back now to that press conference just moments ago.
Full this weekend. In fact, an additional was arrested by our partners at FBI New Orleans in support of this investigation. I will now turn it over to the Los Angeles Police Chief, Jim McDonald. There you go, Jim.
Well, thank you, and good morning, and we appreciate you being here today. Los Angeles Police Department is proud to stand alongside our federal, state, and local partners today to announce the arrest stemming from a coordinated domestic terror plot. The case underscores the persistent threat posed by extremist groups and individuals, as well as the critical need for law enforcement agencies to remain vigilant in protecting our communities. The successful disruption of this plot is a powerful testament to the strength of our unified response, driven by the collaboration and tireless efforts of the FBI's Joint Terrorism Task Force, along with our allied agencies. Together, we have prevented a potential tragedy and reaffirmed our shared commitment to safeguarding our communities. I want to personally thank the dedicated men and women from every agency involved. Their relentless work over the past several days has ensured that those responsible were apprehended swiftly and safely and without harm to our neighborhoods. Thank you. I'll now call up Sheriff of Los Angeles County, Robert Luna.
Well, good morning, everybody, and thank you for being here to cover this, what I believe is a very, very important story for our community. This successful operation was a result of quick, proactive investigative work, and I want to emphasize strong collaboration. And ADIC, Akil Davis, mentioned it and gave credit to all the law enforcement here in Southern California. It is better here, it always has been, than anywhere else in the country, and we're very proud to be part of the Joint Terrorism Task Force. For us at the Sheriff's Department, we've been part of it since after 9/11. Their ability to share intelligence across multiple agencies, investigating threats like this one, is second to none anywhere else. The way we coordinate with partner agencies and act quickly was critical to the success of this operation. And like I said before, there's no other area like here in LA County with our partnership that has been here for years with the FBI and LAPD and the other law enforcement agencies around us. Since this threat was uncovered last week, our Sheriff's Task Force officers and intelligence analysts working closely with our law enforcement partners have been working around the clock to verify information, identify targets, and piece together this plot that you've heard described. Their strong investigative efforts, sharp situational awareness, and rapid response ensured that this threat was stopped before it ever had a chance to be carried out. I'm incredibly proud of the professionalism and dedication shown by the men and women who work tirelessly to bring this threat to an end before it could cause harm to anybody in our community. To our community, I know hearing about these incidents like this can be unsettling, especially in the light of the recent Brown University mass shooting and the Sydney, Australia terrorist attack. But today serves as a powerful reminder that strong collaboration between federal, state, and local law enforcement can prevent violence before it occurs. As we enter the holiday season, a time when families and friends come together across traditions, cultures, and beliefs, this incident is a stark reminder of the importance of vigilance and to be prepared at all times. Vigils whose goal is to divide us, to instill fear, and to target the very diversity that makes our country strong. I want to be very clear, what you see here, this investigative work and the follow-up that's been done shows that they will not succeed. Our community's diversity is our strength, and protecting every member of our community is our primary duty. Whether you are celebrating Christmas, Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, New Year's, or simply gathering with loved ones, you deserve to feel safe. We are committed to ensuring that safety today and every day. We remain dedicated to protecting our entire community through ongoing intelligence gathering and threat assessments, strengthening partnerships across all of our agencies, engaging with the public to promote awareness, vigilance, and resilience. And finally, I encourage everyone to stay alert, trust your instincts, and report suspicious activity. And as we always say in law enforcement, if you see something, read something, or say something, your awareness, your eyes, and ears can help us protect the entire community, as we did in this incident. I will now introduce the police chief of the Palm Springs Police Department, Andy Mills.
Well, good morning, and first of all, thank you so much, Assistant Director Davis, for the spectacular job that the FBI did on this case. We were just in a very supportive role only, making sure that the FBI had what they needed in the desert to execute their mission. But on a larger perspective, I just want our community to know that this gives me hope. It gives me hope because of the unified effort of all of law enforcement, from the Sheriff's Office to LAPD, San Bernardino Sheriffs, and the FBI, working together to make sure that people like this are removed from the community so they can be prosecuted by the U.S. Attorney's Office, to make sure that all of us can live in peace. And this is what our mission is to make sure that there's hope in all of our communities. So thank you very much for the spectacular job that the A-team showed up and did.
Good job, Andy. Thank you.
Yeah, I just want to reiterate that. Obviously, there's some disagreements amongst our agencies over things like immigration enforcement, but when it comes to other areas of law enforcement where it matters to keep the public safe, whether that's protecting the girls on Figueroa Street or the Palm Springs investigation, there is no gap in the cooperation between the federal government and local government, and we do thank the sheriff, the police chiefs for your valuable assistance. It would be very difficult for us to do a lot of what we do without their assistance, so I do want to thank you, each and every one of you.
All right, so that was an update from FBI and LAPD authorities. Again, 4 alleged members of an extremist group were arrested on suspicion of planning coordinated bombings on New Year's Eve in the LA area. Let's take a quick break. We'll be back here in just 2 minutes here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. Welcome back here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. I'm Nick Sturdivant. We want to get back now to that press conference. LAPD, FBI, after 4 were arrested in the Los Angeles area for a New Year's Eve bombing plot. Again, according to the FBI. They also gave updates on the Rob Reiner and Michelle Reiner death investigation as well. Let's take a listen in.
To a few questions. Oh, we're going to play the video. All right, play the video. And this is, the video is, do you want to describe the video?
Yeah, I'll describe the video. So, as I mentioned in my talking points, on December 12th, a group of individuals, again, members of this anti-government group, traveled out to the desert to test their explosive devices. They had precursor chemicals there, and they were going to create these bombs in the desert. What they are starting to do is put their chemicals and wares and the components out on the table there. This footage that you're watching is from our surveillance plane, and then what happened after this is the Los Angeles FBI SWAT team, along with the FBI's hostage rescue team, moved in and arrested all 4 subjects without incident.
So now we'll take some questions.
You mentioned these 5 companies. Can you get more specific about
Yeah, we're not naming the victim companies, but I'll generally describe them as logistic centers. You can think of like Amazon-type logistic centers, but we're not naming the specific companies at this time.
Can you elaborate on the locations?
There were at least 5 locations that they intended to target within Orange County and Los Angeles County. Again, we're not giving out the specific sites, but they were willing and wanting to do more if they could recruit more members to their radical efforts there.
You mentioned the arrest in New Orleans. Do you think that there are other people involved?
There are definitely more members to this group. As far as who was specifically involved in this New Year's Eve terror plot, we believe we've arrested all the members who were specifically involved in that particular plot. We did execute search warrants to people who are also part of this group. As we review that evidence, if we determine that there are any other individuals who knew about this or provided any assistance, we will obviously be charging them as well. Person arrested in Louisiana is not directly tied to this incident, but he is a member of this group. And when they executed the search warrant out there, he posed a great threat to the agents. He threatened the agents, and so that's why he's under arrest.
Do you believe these warnings would have happened on New Year's Eve, or do you think there could be others that are still planning to go forward with something?
Well, obviously, the FBI has a very robust national security investigators. They look out for domestic terrorism as well as international terrorism. Do you want to talk more about your activities with the Joint Terrorism Task Force?
So this investigation is ongoing, as the United just stated. Members of this group or associates of this group or any collaborators in this group, we are looking at as a result of this investigation. To answer your question, we do believe that we have disrupted this plot for New Year's Eve, but like I said, the investigation is ongoing.
As far as we're always looking. We're always looking for other people who might be plotting or doing this. And let this be a warning. If you can avoid being detected by the FBI or the federal government, if you think you're going to be able to design one of these plots, think again. We have very sophisticated, experienced agents, and we will find you, and we will infiltrate you, and we will arrest you, as we did with this group. They didn't see it coming, and each and every one of them is right now in custody. So we're very proud of the work done by the agents. Yes, any other questions?
The name Verdun, Operation Verdun, what's the relationship? The name of the operation?
Yeah, just the name.
It's just a name.
Looks like one of the names is missing from the people who were arrested. Are you able to talk about it?
Yeah, why is that name off? I think that was a...
That information is on the page, which you should have by now.
That's Page. Zachary Aaron Page, 32. Okay. Any other questions?
Yeah, if they wanted that.
Did you want it?
Sure.
Yeah, go ahead.
Good morning, everybody. It's Captain Mike Bland from Media Relations Division. As I discussed earlier with you guys, the chief has agreed to give you an update on the tragedy at the Reiner family home. Just understand this is based on some updates of the tireless work of our investigators from last night and through the night. We're still at the very early stages of this investigation, but again, Chief's prepared to answer any questions and give you a brief update. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Captain Bland. As he said, the information at this stage is still limited, but I'll share what we can. First of all, our hearts go out to the family and friends of the Reiners' tragic incident. Yesterday at December 14th, about 3:40 in the afternoon, LAPD responded to a residence, the residence of Rob and Michelle Reiner, located in West Los Angeles Division. At that location, they found 2 deceased adults, a male and a female. Through the night, working with the coroner's office, they were able to identify them definitively as Rob and Michelle Reiner. We have our Robbery Homicide Division handling the investigation. They worked throughout the night on this case and were able to take into custody Nick Reiner, a suspect in this case. He was subsequently booked for murder and is being held on $4 million bail. Pretty much that's what I can share at this point, but again, a very, very tragic incident.
Can you talk about, I know Deputy Hamilton talked about the search warrant, how important that was because of something inside. Can you talk about where that played a role in this and what you guys needed in order to gain access?
Yeah, you know, we use search warrants to be able to further our investigation, as you know, on all of these cases. I wouldn't be in a position to talk specifically about what the object of the search warrant was, but it's a critical piece of our investigations to be able to ensure down the road a prosecution. Thank you all very much.
Thank you, everybody.
All right, so let's come back here at home, and we are going to take a quick break. We'll be back here in just 2 minutes here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. Welcome back here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. I'm Nick Sturtevant. It is the holiday season. We got some special things happening this holiday season here on WCNC Plus. Parades. Who doesn't love a parade? Carlene loves a parade.
Who doesn't love a parade?
You love a parade at home.
Of course.
And it starts tomorrow here on WCNC Plus at 9 o'clock. The Belmont Christmas Parade kicks it all off. I mean, come on.
Yeah, and we got the NORAD Santa Tracker. Everyone loves watching that thing.
Yeah, I mean,
that's a fun time.
I wish I had a tracker on Santa's sleigh to figure out what he got me.
See,
I mean,
so you just want to see the presents. You don't want to see his journey. You're just like, what did Santa get for me? It's
is that
all
not
about
the purpose?
number one.
Is that not the purpose
of what I'm gathering?
Is that not the purpose of the NORAD Santa
You
tracker?
get to learn, geography. Nick's like, no.
No, I want to know
presents.
if I got the cologne I asked for, Santa. But no, it kicks it all off tomorrow. Belmont Christmas Parade, Concord Christmas Parade on Wednesday. So again, this is the full slate right here. You want to make sure you stick with us here on WCNC Plus. Parades around the Piedmont at 9 o'clock here on WCNC Plus. All right, let's talk about it.
Let's talk about it. Okay. I know we talked about it a little this morning, but this is fresh eyes on this stream. We're talking about the Panthers, by the way. How are you feeling?
I'm okay. I'm all right. I could be better.
You could be better.
worse. Look, okay. Let me lead with love.
Okay.
It feels good to be competitive.
Yeah.
This time last year, we
It's
were not
exciting.
competitive. It's exciting. But why does it have to be this exciting?
Yeah.
We could have beat the Saints yesterday.
You want a little more comfort going in week.
Yeah, let's beat the Saints, and then let's beat the Bucks. Now we got to beat the Bucks twice, essentially. And maybe we could beat the Bucks and beat the Seahawks. It's a tough stretch for the team. We have, I guess, the only solace, we have 2 home games, like back-to-back home games coming up. So that helps.
Yeah, that helps.
Helps.
But still.
So, I mean, it's going to be 65 Sunday here in Charlotte. Beautiful day for a game. It's hard to trust this team. It's been a lot of ups, a lot of downs. Again, the last 8 games, win-loss. And it's like, all right, can we get a win streak going? Right. So, it's been tough, but it's also great to see the team competitive.
Yeah.
So that's the bright side. Your Bills won.
My Bills won. And trust me, as a Bills fan, when I was in Buffalo, we were not great.
Yeah.
So I wasn't really in Buffalo when they really picked up steam.
Yeah.
So I feel the up down, like emotional kind of roller coaster.
You were Tyrod Taylor years.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Yeah.
Rex Ryan.
Years.
Oh yeah.
But y'all made the playoffs.
We did.
It was I forgot who lost for y'all. I think it was the Bengals maybe. But y'all made the playoffs. That was great. That was before Josh Allen. Were you still there when Josh Allen got? Oh,
I think I was on the way out.
You didn't even get the experience.
No.
Oh man.
I sure did not.
We got to get you back up there for a game.
I really want to go. The new stadium looks amazing. I would like to go back for all that.
Carlene,
I would love to go back.
You keep missing the fun, Carlene. Carlene missed the Cam Newton experience.
I did.
I didn't live in Charlotte. I was living in Florence, South Carolina, and then I moved up to High Point. So I was always sort of adjacent to the Cam Newton, but I would always come back for games, and city was electric.
That's why, I had friends who cheered on the Top Cats during that time, and they said it was hype.
Oh my goodness, it was that stadium. It was a tough stadium to play at.
Right.
You missed both of those experiences. Carlene.
I missed both of those experiences.
And I like Bryce Young. The Bryce Young experience is not the Cam Newton experience, and it's not the Josh Allen. It's not the Josh Allen experience.
It's not.
It's not. But anyway, look, I have hope for my guys. We're not out yet. So
I have hope
again,
for them too. I would love the Panthers to do well. I'm living in Charlotte. It would be nice.
Let's get on a winning streak. Let's put that in the air. Winning streak. Just have to win 3 games. Maybe
just
2.
3.
Well, 2 games, but 3 would be nice.
Yeah.
So, all right, let's check in with our guy, Nick Carboni and Julian Council for a breakdown of last night's game, I guess if you want to call it that.
It was a game.
The Panthers buried by a goalkeeper and the eliminated Saints on a last-minute field goal in the Superdome, blowing a 10-point lead and a chance to make next week's game against the Bucks at the Bank a win and in the playoffs scenario. Going to bring in Julian Council from Locked On Panthers. Julian, I guess this is right in line with the season, right? So now I guess we can predict they'll beat the Bucks, lose to Seattle, and then beat the Bucks in Tampa to win the division, right? What's going on with this team?
Well, Nick, that's been the case really since after that 3-game winning streak in the middle of the season where it's been win, loss, just yo-yo every single week. And this is the second time they're coming off of what we thought was the biggest win of the season, that they didn't lose to a lowly Saints team that absolutely was game. And we expected this to not be a blowout. We expected this to be one of those grind-out kind of games for Carolina that they weren't able to win. So, yeah, if the pattern continues, they'll win both the games against Tampa, and that's now the simplest way they can go to the playoffs. But yeah, they made it a lot harder than it needed to be by not taking care of business down in New Orleans today. But why would we ever think that these Carolina Panthers would want to do it the easy way, the hard way, or no way at all? That's what they've chosen heading to the final 3 weeks of the season.
Yeah, they beat the Rams, and then they're sitting at home, and they get propped up in a first place by 2 Bucs losses. Like, we know this team can't handle success at this point. I mean, that's like 12 games now in a row where they've been favored and they've lost. What do you point to figure out why they can't follow these great moments and build off of them?
I just think that it's the lack of maturity, and I'm not saying like individually like these guys are immature. I just think at where they are in this stage of the team build under Dave Canales, under Dan Morgan, we'll throw Brant Tillis in there as well, that this organization just isn't mature enough to go out on the field in these types of situations and win. And that's not to say that that can't be true starting next week. It's not to say that they can't still find a way to finally get there, and they still have an opportunity. Obviously, losing this game is going to be frustrating for everyone in that locker room and all the fans out there that wanted to believe and were celebrating there close to midnight after that Thursday Night Football result. But at this stage, they just have not been mature enough as an organization, as a team, to win these games because they not find a way to have bad mistakes like the penalties today. They don't capitalize potential turnovers like Roseboom not getting on that fumble. They don't hold up in pass protection when you need it. You may not have the right play calls at the right time. It's just overall the organization just is not mature enough at this point in time to win these kind of games and to take advantage and handle success. They've shown the ability to bounce back, which is great, but eventually you have to be able to handle success, and they have not been able to do that, as you've said, so far.
I'm going to galaxy brain this for a second. Do the Panthers just not want the Saints to draft a quarterback because they think going forward they can beat Tyler Shuck? How come they can't stop this guy?
Well, they're going to have a problem going forward if Tyler Shuck is going to continue to be the Saints quarterback, because he has shown in these 2 games, and especially today. And if you look at last week when everyone was watching, Dave Canales on his couch celebrating, rooting hard for New Orleans to beat Tampa, we've seen the last 2 weeks just how good of a player Tyler Shuck can be. And it looks like the Saints do have their quarterback. So the Panthers were trying to prevent New Orleans from being able to take a quarterback in what appears to not be a great quarterback draft class. Congratulations. You've successfully done that by now being half of the wins that the Saints have this season, but you've also created your own problem where the division stands, and then you have made it pretty clear, at least to me, that Tyler Shuck is the guy moving forward at least for another season for New Orleans, and that he may be the guy there for Kellen Moore and that organization. So congrats, and also I'm sorry.
We talk a lot about offensive play calling here in these discussions. What about defensive play calling from Ejiro Evero on that game-tying drive where Brad Panovich and I were in here going, it's going to be a slant now to Chris Olave, and leading up to that, the coverage was just soft the whole way up the field.
Yeah, it's tough to watch because we understand they play a lot of zone. The Panthers play some of the most zone coverage among teams in the NFL, so it's not a surprise that they sat back in a zone. And we know they do not have a great pass rush, and I guess they don't want to take a number away from the coverage, but when you're seeing how it was set up and they're still allowing plenty of stuff underneath and even an intermediate on that drive, it doesn't make a ton of sense. But that's just the style of defense that Ejiro Evero runs, and that Dave Canales continuously has sat there and defended it. He has said he does not dislike the scheme. They just need to execute better, apparently, and they did not execute on that drive. And the fact that they allow New Orleans, when they're starting the drive at the 8-yard line, then to go down and to get in field goal position to win the game at the end. Your defense, when you're up 17-7, has to be able to close out the game. Yes, offensively they had moments where they could have closed it out as well, but defensively you can't allow, even on the road against a rookie quarterback in Tyler Shuck, who played a hell of a game in his own right, you can't can't allow what happened today to happen, but it's not necessarily something we haven't seen before because it was similar to what happened even in week 10 when they last played, and the other moments that they have had where they've allowed teams to be able to come back because they've been able to pick apart zone coverage. So they got to figure out moving forward how they're going to be able to combat that when they face against Seattle and Tampa over the next 3 weeks.
Dave Canales and this coaching staff had 2 weeks to prep for that rookie quarterback for a 3-win team in a crucial game. Is this just another growing pain of a young head coach and staff, or is this a red flag going forward?
You hope that it's the former, that it's just going to be another growing pain as they learn to win. Because you look at it, there's a lot of guys in that locker room that haven't been in that position here in Carolina. We know guys like A'Shawn Robinson have been on playoff teams. Austin Corey's been on a Super Bowl team before. You look at Bobby Brown III, he was on the Rams last year. So there are guys who have won at previous stops. Just not really many dudes in this locker room that have won in Carolina. J.J. Jansen, he's won plenty in Carolina. Yeah. Taylor Moton was on the last time they went to the playoffs was on that team. It was not really a contributor as a rookie, but he was on the team. So I think it's not just Dave, but I think it's everyone involved just really learning what it takes to be able to get over the top and reach the mountaintop as far as the NFC South and get back to the playoffs. And like he's had some learning curves there this year and even last year as well. And it is alarming, though, that it feels like the same things that kind of got you beat back in week 10, the inability, especially in the second half, to run the ball, not really trying to meet things down the field when, I thought Bryce Young was certainly the bright spot offensively. I thought he played a good game. His numbers are never really eye-popping, but he took care of the football, had that tremendous throw to Jalen Coker. His legs were key in this game for Carolina as well. I think you got to put more trust in your quarterback, and it is concerning that for the second time coming off a big win and you have an extra week to prepare, that this is what your team looked like. Now, they were up by 10 points, but the fact that your team was not able to take care of an opponent that they, at least on paper, are better than and should have beaten, that is a little bit of the red flag there as far as that goes. But I think for most part, it's still a learning curve for Dave, with maybe a tiny bit of red flags there as far as just not having the team prepared to win this game today.
All right, Carolina's not a terribly undisciplined team, Julian, but 11 penalties, 103 yards. Is that just a product of the opponent, the place? How does that happen in such a big game? And obviously the big one with Lathan Ransom. What are your thoughts on that penalty to set up the game winner?
Yeah, I am curious to know just what the stats are for this officiating crew, because it wasn't just Carolina. I think New Orleans had 9 penalties as well. Yeah, so overall, typically, and maybe this is something I asked Dave on Monday, but typically, they are aware that, hey, this officiating crew is going to throw more flags than the other officiating crews that we have played against this year. That's typically something that the coaches will tell their teams. So I'm curious if that was the case with this crew, because there were a lot of penalties, and it was the clunkiest game that we have watched all season long in that regard. Really, the one that I really did not like to see was what would happen early on in the game with Ike Ekwonu, where Cam Jordan, he hits Bryce Young. Maybe there should have been a flag there. Even if there was a flag, Ike can't come in then and hit Cam Jordan like he did, push him, and then have that unnecessary roughness. Because at the worst, or at best, you just wipe out that penalty that you would have gotten had they thrown the penalty there and protected Bryce. But instead, you kill the drive, and you can potentially kill the momentum that you had already up 7-0 to where they could have scored. They were driving down the field. That was the beginning of a lot of just boneheaded decisions. And it's tough for defenders like with Lathan Ransom in that situation when a quarterback, they caught Carolina off guard with that play call, but when he's sliding down, you're obviously not trying to hit him high, and they slide late. It puts the defenders in an impossible situation. So I feel for the guy, but you have to not put yourself in that situation when that happens. So it's a tough call, but that's going to be something that gets called every single time. And I know the drive prior, Panther fans are wondering why wasn't it not called for Bryce Young. I don't know, but it happened that spot, and it was the worst possible time. But 11 penalties for 103 yards, that's going to get you beat pretty much every single time like it did today.
Carolina, after 3.5 days, hands the keys to the division back to Tampa. Maybe they're buoyed by watching Carolina lose to the Saints, like Carolina was for 2 weeks watching Tampa lose. Is that going to make a difference for the Bucs? We're kind of backsliding right now. What are your initial thoughts on this game at Bank of America Stadium in Week 16?
I I think this result has no bearing on just how ticked off of a team Tampa was going to be anyways coming to Carolina. Maybe I don't think it's really going to allow them to even take a deep breath and feel like, oh yeah, everything is fine now. They've still lost, 6 out of their last 8 games. They have been in free fall mode here in the second half of the season. So I don't think this really clears anything up for them other than, okay, they're back in position, but they have to figure out whatever's been going on with them. For Carolina, they've shown the ability to bounce back. I heard Derek Brown in the locker room say that they wouldn't want it to be easy. It's like, okay, well, it would have been nice to have known that going into the game, that you guys didn't want it the easy way. But yeah, why would it be easy for this team? Obviously, yes, guys, he wanted to win the game today. He did not want to lose, but it's not going to be easy for this team, clearly. So I'm expecting another kind of grind out kind of game. And if Carolina can take care of the ball, find a way to run the football as well, they can come out on top. But then it's going to come down to, after that, can you handle success again, which they have shown time and time again, at least this year and at this point in time, that they cannot do that. Not that they will not, but right now they cannot do it. So we'll see how that plays out. But yeah, should be, I still hope a ruckus environment for Panther fans. Your team's still tied for first place in the division in week 16. They have not been good for years. So I really hope people, if you have the means and the ability to go out to the game next Sunday, go out, be loud, cheer on the team, even if you are upset about the result today, because it should still be a really good game, a really good environment next Sunday, as it's basically do or die for both Tampa and Carolina.
All right, Julian Council from the Locked On Panthers podcast, here and there all week. We will see you at the bank this Sunday, where it's not for all the marbles, but certainly some of them. Thanks, Julian.
No, it's for all the marbles. I mean, we got to win this game.
It's do or die time.
Yeah, it's that's how I look at the next 3 games. It's do or die. We got to win these games, Carlene.
Gotta win.
I mean, that separates a team sitting at home watching playoffs and a team actually in the playoffs.
What happens when they go to the playoffs? What are you going to do? Throw a parade?
No.
Do a little dance?
No.
Now, I want stakes now. If they go to the playoffs, I want you to have to do something here. Viewers at home, any suggestions? Call in. message us.
It's just, look, okay, so we've been to the Super Bowl before. Now, if the stakes are higher going to the Super Bowl, we're having a different conversation. We've been to the playoffs before.
Yes.
But we need to get back to the playoffs.
Right, but it's been a minute.
It's been a minute, but I still know what the champagne tastes like.
Old champagne wasn't what, 2015, 17?
2017. I still know it, and guess where we lost that playoff game? Inside the Superdome in New Orleans against the Saints. It's tough playing against the Saints. We have never had a great time playing the Saints. Even when Drew Brees, this was, I believe, the 2015 season when we went to the Super Bowl. They came to Carolina. They came to Charlotte, and Drew Brees was out that game with an injury, and we still almost lost that game.
Yeah.
So the Saints are always a tough matchup for us. I guess shout out to them. So we'll think about it. If we make the playoffs, we'll think about it. We'll figure it out. Let's take a quick break.
Yeah.
Let's do that. As I think about it, we'll be back here in 2 minutes here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. Welcome back here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. I'm Nick Sertivant. It is cold outside. Cold. I have a few layers on. I came in with a few layers more on. It was, I cranked up the heat higher than I normally do. I didn't crank it up to like 78 or anything.
No.
I cranked it up a little higher last night. It was cold during the day.
What temperature do you keep your house at?
I usually keep my house anywhere between 65 to 70 with the heat.
That's not bad.
Because I don't like to be hot.
Right.
But I bumped it up to 72 last night.
72.
So it's back down to 65 because, you know, look, and speaking of bumping your heat back down, look, just one of the ways we can save energy and save a few extra dollars because, you know, have you done Christmas shopping yet? Are you finished Christmas shopping?
No, I'm not finished yet. It's going to be a lot of last minute things. Sorry, everybody.
No, I understand that because, you know, we got to make sure that we save a few bucks so we can eventually spend those few bucks on our loved ones.
Power is pricey this time of year.
It is pricey. It was pricey in the summertime. I learned. It took me a long time to learn this, but I learned from Duke Energy, you bump up your AC to, you know, higher than normal.
Yep.
Not sweltering hot. You know, I bumped it up to like 73.
Yeah.
And I saved like $20 on my energy bill.
$20.
Close the blinds so it can stay cool. And when I got back home, it was pretty cool inside. And you talking about we had some 99-degree days here.
Did.
We had some hot days. So do the reverse when it comes to wintertime, when it gets really cold. Let's check in with our friends with Duke Energy because they have some great advice here. You don't want to miss this. Here's Duke Energy on how you can save energy and some money.
What are some things that people should know, especially about what to do to save money when they're going to be turning up that heat?
Yeah, well, we're looking at, you know, cooler than typical numbers with temperatures. So early next week, we're looking at 7 to 12 degrees, you know, below normal for this time of year. Of course, it's around winter time, so it's going to be colder, but there's a lot of different ways that our customers can save energy and then save on their bill, especially when cold temperatures hit. So just a few of those things. You know, when we see colder temperatures, of course, our heating systems are going to be working harder. And so one way in order to save on energy and on money is turning your thermostat to the lowest comfortable setting. And also thinking about if you're going out of the house for a few hours or to work, you know, that's also a great time to use your programmable thermostat to turn it down a few degrees in order to save while you're away.
What is there like a magic spot, like you know, for people to be at?
What we recommend is for customers to set their thermostat to the lowest comfortable setting in order to save on energy and on money, and that's going to be different for every family. And so what we say is that every degree is going to count when it comes to saving energy and money on your bill. And so think about, you know, if you have a programmable thermostat, setting it a few degrees lower while you're away, whether you're doing some shopping, you know, Christmas shopping, or if you are going to be going to work, that's a great opportunity, you know, while you're away to have it saving on energy and on money so that you're not going to be spending that heating a home that, you know, no one's there.
Is it important to turn on your heat, especially in these cold temperatures because of freezing pipes, anything like that?
Yeah. We don't typically see freezing pipes around this area. Of course, I am not a freezing pipe expert. You know, we deal with energy. However, you know, we do recommend that our customers look for ways in order to be energy efficient, and that will help them save on their bill. And so, again, turning your thermostat to the lowest comfortable setting. Another great tip in order to, you know, use is, you know, using caulking and sealing for, you know, your doors and your windows, you know, weather stripping, and that will help, you know, reduce the amount of, you know, cold air that is coming in or the warm air that's seeping out.
Perfect. Is it a good idea for people to check around their home to see if there's any, you know, thing that needs to be caulked or?
Yeah, for sure. This is a great opportunity, right before or even after the holidays, to take advantage of our free home energy assessment. So we have an expert that comes free of charge to your home and looks around your home to your unique family's energy usage. They also will bring a lot of these free goodies that you can use that will make your home more energy efficient. So from caulking to weather stripping to low flow, shower heads and such. So those things are going to be helping you save even more on your bill.
When it comes to, a few Christmases ago, we did see that big outage from a lot of people. Obviously, it was a lot colder then. How are you guys preparing, especially for more energy coming this weekend?
Well, we have a team of meteorologists that constantly check the weather and forecasts, and they're informing our crews and informing, the entire company in order to make sure that we are prepared. And we prepare year-round for storms. So we have tree trimming, we have our crews upgrading our poles and our wires. We have, constantly, looking and adjusting depending on what the weather brings. And so we're always constantly communicating. Another thing that I would say is that it's a great chance for customers to save on money when their heating systems are going to be working harder. So taking advantage of those the free home energy assessment, getting caulking and weather stripping in order to close those gaps and trap that warm air in, and also using your ceiling fan. You may not think of it in the winter time, but you can actually turn it on and it can actually help bring the warm air down and make it feel warmer in your home.
What should people do if there's an outage in their area?
Yeah. If you experience a temporary power outage, you can reach out to us, you can text us, you can call us, you can use the app or our webpage. There's a lot of ways to reach out to us. And also know that we have folks who are monitoring the grid, around the clock. And so we are aware of outages as soon as they occur. And so we have, crews spread throughout our footprint that are ready to respond when there are temporary power outages. We also have smart healing technology, which is great because it helps reroute power to the greatest amount of people as possible when there is a power outage, so that it really isolates to only the issue that our crews will go out to address.
Perfect. Trying to think. Fireplaces, especially gas ones. So what should people know about that?
Yeah. So of course, a fireplace can be very cozy, but it's not very energy efficient. So just keeping that in mind. So, with more energy usage, there's going to be a higher cost. So, if you're trying to be more energy efficient in your home, setting your thermostat to the lowest comfortable setting, using the fan in order to bring that warm air down, sealing those cracks and gaps, and then of course, again, signing up for our free home energy assessment, which is going to be a great help, and that's going to be very unique to your home.
Let's talk about the mountains a little bit, because I know that they're going to be really, really cold. With Helene that did come through, is there any areas that are not or still offline, or they're all set to go?
Yeah, so we have been present ever since Hurricane Helene hit. In the mountains, we have been present ever since. Of course, we're always present across our footprint in order to make sure that we are, delivering reliable electricity to our customers.
Great. And what are some things that they would need to know, especially with snow and the forecast and everything?
Yeah. So, of course, it's important for everyone to, stay tuned to what's happening in the weather. Of course, we have our team of meteorologists that do just the same and make sure that our crews are prepared and know what's headed our way, so that we are ready to respond as quickly and as safely as possible if there is a temporary power outage.
Great. And they can still call the number to...
All of those things, yes.
Is there anything that they should be doing as far as getting their homes ready? I know probably the same stuff. But with that snow, do they need to clear anything for power, or no?
So we prepare for storms year-round, and so trimming trees. A lot of times what we may see with a temporary power outage is a tree limb or a tree that falls on a power line, and then we have to restore that. And so that's why we have crews year-round that go around our power lines in order to make sure that they are clear of any troubled trees that may impact power.
Great, perfect. Anything else that you would like to add or that you think I'm missing for people?
Sure. I think a great way for our customers to stay informed is looking at their usage alerts and also going to their account and seeing what their usage is compared to the last billing cycle, compared to last year. The best thing really to understand, how your energy usage is either increasing or decreasing is looking and comparing apples to apples. So looking at last December, for example, or last November if that's your latest bill, and see what your usage has been. And maybe see what has been causing the spikes, whether that's been temperature or whether that's been, you've added a family member into your home, or whether you have just a lot more appliances or a lot more devices that you're plugging in. There's a lot of different things that we can learn from our energy usage in order to be more energy efficient.
Great. I'm going to ask you this question too.
Yeah.
Christmas trees.
Yeah.
A lot of people will be having, I keep mine on. How much of that does it really do anything big, or no, it doesn't use a lot of energy?
The more energy that you use, the more that we're going, how let me put that. No, you're fine. Let me reroute the way I was going to say that.
Yeah.
So, it's the holiday season, and a lot of folks are using, lights, Christmas trees, etc., in order to celebrate. And while it's very beautiful, we encourage our customers to, be energy smart when they're decorating. So, using LED lights, for example, are going to be using a lot less energy and also providing that beautiful decorative lighting.
All right, folks, so there you have it. Some tips to save on that power bill as it is getting quite cold. And yeah.
Well, we talked about with Nick. What temperature do you keep your house at?
So this is a point of contention in the house. It's the Wild West. And I'm not allowed to touch the thermostat.
To be honest, I don't even know what I keep. Greg handles the thermostat, and I just live in it. And I know that's...
Yeah.
I probably should know, but if I get chilly, I grew up, I didn't have central heating and cooling. We didn't have thermostat. We had heaters in each room and box fans in each room.
Yeah.
So either you take off your jacket or put on a jacket or put on your Uggs. So temperature's his deal.
Yeah. Well, that's how I feel.
Yes.
And I'm probably the least sensitive to temperature in the house. So this is the realm that I gladly concede.
Yes.
So that
Go ahead.
Everyone in the house feels
Handle
comfortable.
It. Yes, 100%.
But yeah, it was actually a long time before we put on the heat this season.
Same.
Really recently.
We held out for a long time because I don't mind putting on, socks and Uggs in the house. I don't mind.
Blankies.
Yeah.
It's cozy. 'Tis the season. Okay. Well, I know, folks, we've got some big news to come up here this afternoon. We'll be checking with our Jessie Pierre. I just saw she is logging on with us as we speak, giving us an update on a first appearance for a person who is accused of killing that missing Charlotte mom. We've been covering that story of Frasia Baker for several days, and unfortunately, you might remember she was found dead last week. There is somebody charged in her death. So we're going to check in with Jessie Pierre in just a little bit. But a quick break here, folks. We'll be back in 2 minutes. Jessie on the other side. Hopefully, as we see that she is logging on, we're going to get her set up. All right. All right, welcome back, everyone, to Live Impact News. Vanessa Rufus here. As we mentioned, we are checking in now with our Jesse Pierre, who's been covering a first court appearance for the suspect in a missing mom case. We have been covering the story of Frasia Baker for the last several days as her loved ones had been trying to find her. And unfortunately, late last week, CMPD releasing the news that she was found sadly dead. And there is somebody charged in that. Let's go ahead and check in with Jesse right now. So, Jesse, what can you tell us about what happened today in court, and just any updates in the case in general, because it sounds like not only is there the legal process that's now playing out, but also a community that's trying to rally around the young son of this woman who, this son is now without his mom, 2 years old, and will be growing up without her.
Yes, like you mentioned, Lorenzo Inman, he was arrested on Friday, and he had his first appearance today in court. He is facing murder charge, domestic violence, assault on a woman, and during the hearing today, he learned that he will not be getting out anytime soon. He will remain in jail and was given no bond. So during the hearing today, the prosecutors kind of read through the list of the summary of the charges that he faces, and also pointed out his long criminal history in all of that, including several charges, several cases of violence against women, and other violent crimes. Now, during the hearing, we saw Inman actually shaking his head several times when those things were being read. I spoke to Baker's family, who were also in court. They were very emotional at times, and his aunt says that he was mouthing, "I'm sorry" to them. They also got an opportunity to address the court, saying that he should have never been out of the street. He doesn't deserve a bond, especially because of his long criminal history that he has. And so that request was granted. Now, when we read the affidavits, we also learned a couple more things. Now, the day that she went missing on December 4th, that's when her family say she dropped off her son, and then they didn't hear back from her. They weren't able to get in contact with her. But there's also surveillance video detectives say of a gas station near the area of actually where they found her body, a gas station on LaSalle near Washington Heights, where there was footage from that gas station showing Inman assaulting her, pushing her to the ground allegedly, grabbing her by the neck, and then taking a hard object from a cooler and throwing it at her back. Days later, on December 11th, like you mentioned, Vanessa, her body was found in a car in Washington Heights near a church. Now, in the affidavits, it says two different directions, but it says a witness reached out to Inman's probation officer saying that she was dead, and that he said that they got into an argument. That they got into an argument, or that that she was shot in the head, and that she was in a car.
All right, sorry about that, folks. It looks like we've got some connectivity issues there with Jesse's shot, but really just some heartbreaking details coming to light. As we sometimes will see when these court cases play out and more information and evidence is released through the course of court, some information that we hadn't previously known, from, let's just say, the arrest warrant or the narrative that's sent initially by CMPD, we'll start to learn that information. So no doubt Jesse Pierre will be having more for us on this case, not just in the throughout the rest of this day, but in coming days and weeks as we do continue to follow this case. I alluded to this before, the fact that the community has tried to rally around this family now, Frasia Baker's family, now that she has passed, and she does have a young son, 2 years old. And I know Jesse will be talking about this more. Actually, I think I see her shot. Just double check it, Carlene, if you're able to see if she'll be able to come back and kind of weigh in on the GoFundMe. But we do see a GoFundMe that's been started to support Baker's son, as he now will have to grow up without his mother. And there are a lot of questions about how to provide for his needs. So it looks like we do have Jesse's shot back. And I know, I'm sorry about that, Jesse. You were in the middle of a really interesting unveiling of details that you found out from court. So I'm trying to think where we should kind of pick up from where you froze in your shot. But essentially you found out that it sounded like Lorenzo Inman had spoken to somebody and suggested that maybe she had been shot and that she was in a car somewhere. And I think that's kind of around the spot where we lost your connection.
Exactly. So in the affidavit, it says that detectives did question a witness who actually called his probation officer initially. And, you know, they give two different stories in the affidavits. First, the witness told the probation officer that she had been shot in the head and that that she was found, that she was in a car, but didn't know where that car was. When the detective actually spoke to the witness directly, that witness said that and I'm sorry, let me get that back. The first account was that they had an argument and that she was shot in the head. The second account, when the detective spoke with the witness, is that Inman saying that he was putting the gun away and it went off and it shot her. I'll go back through that affidavit. Unfortunately, my computer is frozen too, so I can't even, you know, look back. But either way, a witness account is what led them to more details, just overall saying that she had been shot and that she was dead. And that is something that they say Inman told them. Again, her body was found December 11th. It was days after, well, about a week later since the family had last seen her alive. Today in court, the defense attorney argued that there wasn't enough evidence to really connect him to the actual crime, and asked for a bond. Unfortunately, but that bond request was denied, and so he was given no bond. He will remain behind bars. Now, we did speak to the family after, and they're happy that at least he didn't get a bond this time. But when they look at his criminal history, they say that he should have never been out in the streets. If something could have been done beforehand, then maybe Frasia Baker could still have been alive today. Now, yes, the community, even when Frasia Baker was first announced to be missing or reported missing, a lot of people were sharing that information and really rallying behind the family to find her safe. And now there has been a GoFundMe page that has been created to support the son and his future. Like his aunt mentioned when we spoke to her, he will never get to really know his mom, outside of pictures and what he hears from family with her gone. And so that is why that GoFundMe page was created. Vanessa?
A really heartbreaking story. Jesse, I know you'll have some reporting for us later today. Can you share what time we can see your pieces and what sort of angles you'll be covering for us in those early evening newscasts?
So I will be on at 5 o'clock and 6 o'clock, kind of reiterating exactly what happened in court today. We'll be sharing more interview sound from the father of Frasia Baker as well as her aunt. And we will also dig in a little bit more into his criminal history for later tonight.
All right. Jesse Pierre, thank you so much for joining us here and breaking down what you've learned today. And we'll see you starting at 5 today on WCNC Plus. All right. Folks, let's go ahead and take a quick break. We'll be back on the other side. We're following some feeds around the area, including one that actually just started within the last several minutes. Health Secretary Robert F. Kay Jr. with this roundtable regarding Lyme disease that just started. He's still speaking. In 2 minutes, we'll rejoin probably with that feed since that's the main one that we see going right now. All right, welcome back, everyone, to Live Impact News. Vanessa Rufus here. We are keeping an eye on a feed of Health Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. with this roundtable over Lyme disease. This is going to cover several topics, we're told, including early detection, how to care for it, diagnostic tools, and what the federal government is hoping to do as far as prioritizing treatment and research on the disease. Let's listen in as this roundtable has just gotten underway.
To address chronic illnesses that affect millions of Americans. HHS appreciates Dr. Ben Nemser of the Cone Foundation for being here and for his leadership. Together, we are redefining the Lyme status quo. Lyme disease affects nearly 500,000 Americans every year. It is a bacterial infection transmitted by the black-legged tick and deer ticks, and cases have now been reported in every U.S. state in the continental United States. Lyme accounts for 82% of all tick-borne diseases and 77% of vector-borne diseases nationally. Tick-borne diseases more than doubled between 2004 and 2016 and continue rising. Children and those who work and recreate outdoors are at highest risk. Ticks also transmit an estimated 20 pathogens that cause human diseases, including those that mimic or compound Lyme symptoms. Some ticks cause alpha-gal syndrome. This is the Lone Star tick. And that's the meat allergy. If you get bit by that tick for even 10 seconds, you could be unable to eat meat for the rest of your life. Unfortunately, Lyme disease diagnostics remain unreliable. Current tests fail to detect all stages of the infection, and up to 20% of patients experience persistent debilitating symptoms even after antibiotics. Research has been underfunded, misunderstood for decades, leaving families without answers. Comprehensive cost of illnesses studies have not yet even quantified the total economic burden of Lyme disease. Lyme disease is an example of a chronic disease that has long been dismissed, with patients receiving inadequate care and at sometimes derision. In the Trump administration, things are different. We are validating patients' experiences now. Our country is built on freedom, and MAHA is built on informed choice and medical freedom and good science. Patients must have clear information, real option, and the freedom to make decisions about their own care. This is especially important for complex chronic conditions like Lyme disease. I'd like to express my gratitude to everyone with us today. You've all been leading the way on making this invisible illness visible and impossible to ignore.
All right. Thank you, Sarah, and thank you again. We'll echo you. Thank you, everyone, for being here today. So right now, we're going to have each roundtable participant, if you can please state your name, title, and a short description of some of the work you do, either treating or bringing awareness to Lyme disease, or some of the work you've done as a member of Congress. Congressman Smith, we'll start with you. We'll go counterclockwise around the table.
Thank you so much. Mr. Secretary, first of all, thank you. Let me say that again. Thank you. The patients, their families, everybody involved with Lyme disease and other tick-borne diseases are absolutely thrilled that you're walking point on this, and of course with the full support of the president, and you are going to make the difference. 33 years ago, I met with CDC, NIH, and HHS people with a delegation from my state, because we're one of the epicenters of Lyme disease, top people from CDC. And part of the discussion revolved around, they were saying if you take 4 weeks of doxycycline, no matter what stage this disease is in, it goes away. And the insurance companies then said, 4 weeks, that's all we're going to reimburse for. And you know, we got them to admit that their recommendation was being misread, if that's what it was happening, that you know, they were taking that 4 weeks as that's it for the insurance companies, and they claimed that they would reverse it, and they did. In '94, I offered an amendment to the NDAA, the Appropriations Committee for Armed Services, and frankly, Fort Dix is in my district, and we know that many men and women bivouacking were getting Lyme disease, going back to their states, National Guard and Ready Reserve, only to say, what do I have here? Getting misdiagnosed by doctors who were very ill-informed about what was going on. So we did a $850,000 per year program, and it took off. It did become law. In 1998, I introduced the Lyme Disease Initiative of 1998. It had all of the components that you mentioned, trying to find a way of treating, but before that, of discerning who has it, who doesn't, a diagnostic, whether or not vaccines may or may not be applicable. And it was a comprehensive bill. It was bipartisan. One time I had over 100 co-sponsors, could not get it out of the Energy and Commerce Committee because people in this building were saying, nothing to see here. I was disgusted because I knew a lot of people who had Lyme, including members of the Assembly in New Jersey and others and friends. So it was like, how can you do that? It wasn't until the 2016, and you know this, 21st Century Cures Act, that we put the mainstay of that bill from 1998 into it, dealing with the issue of a blue ribbon type commission, a task force that would leave no stone unturned with Lyme literate people participating. That was transformational. And what Secretary Azar did with his Lyme Disease Initiative and what that report, they finally recognized Lyme, chronic Lyme, which had been a culture of denial for decades. They wouldn't call it that per se, but they called it that. And so that anyone who didn't get it right away, the way you did with the antibiotic, with the bullseye, could you then, get some treatment. We did the Tick Act. There was a bipartisan effort again, and you have the senator who championed it on the Senate side, Kay Hagan Tick Act. We're going to reauthorize it this year again. And tonight, the Senate will vote on their NDAA conference report, and I put in an amendment that passed. 4 times it failed, passed in the House, failed in the Senate, to finally look at, and I know you have spoken out so well on this, where did this come from in its hyper current manifestation? Was it at Fort Detrick? Was it at the place right near you?
Plum Island.
Plum Island. Was it there? And GAO will be fully empowered to leave no stone unturned, and now it'll have a congressional mandate to get to the bottom of it, because they were weaponizing ticks. Dr. Berthofer, as we all know, was a weapons expert. And he told Chris Newby in her book, Bitten, and I know you've read it, I've read it twice, quoted her extensively, that she looked at his files. And we weaponized, it was stopped by Nixon, that's how far back it goes, but the legacy of that biological weapons testing and the like has been absolutely cruel to our own people. My daughter, eldest daughter, 48 years old, she has chronic Lyme. She manifested about 10 years ago and has been very sick. She has a Lyme literate doctor. Very, very aggressive effort to try to hold it in abeyance because in a way you don't get cured. So I can't thank you enough. And I mean this because we used to talk to the wall in this building. And they were always polite, would sit there, yes, yes, and then nothing would happen. And you're doing it. Thank you, and God bless you.
Thank you, Congressman.
Hello, my name is Dr. Ben Nemser, Chief Program Officer for the Stephen and Alexandra Cohen Foundation. First, I would like to thank Secretary Kennedy for hosting this historic roundtable. The Stephen and Alexandra Cohen Foundation is the largest nonprofit funder of Lyme and tick-borne disease research in the U.S. Over the last 10 years, the foundation has granted more than $110 million to the Lyme and tick-borne disease field. Since 2020, this includes a public-private partnership with HHS called the LymeX Innovation Accelerator. The foundation's approach is grounded in the patient experience. Our founder, Alexandra Cohen, has battled Lyme disease for many years, and she is the visionary behind our work. Personally, I'm a caregiver to my wife, who has endured Lyme and tick-borne disease co-infections for over a decade. The foundation has funded more than 70 projects, but for this discussion, I would like to highlight one, the Lyme Clinical Trials Network. Started in 2021 at leading clinical institutions such as Johns Hopkins, Mount Sinai, University of North Carolina, to name a few, the network conducts studies based on treatments that are working with frontline Lyme doctors and for other health conditions and rigorously evaluates them in robust clinical settings. The Lyme Clinical Trials Network is designed to build evidence for repurposing medicines and other treatments so we can improve the lives of people suffering now. While the network is currently testing many treatments, they can use additional support to expand capacity and test more treatments so that patients and clinicians recommend to the network. Moreover, once the evidence is generated, the network needs support to disseminate this knowledge, to educate and train hundreds of thousands of frontline clinicians across the country. Better treatments for the 2 million people suffering from long Lyme or chronic Lyme are within our grasp, but we need to collaborate for maximum patient benefit. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. First of all, thank you so much, Mr. Secretary, for inviting me to this roundtable. My name is Rachel Markey. I am a physician assistant and live here in Washington, D.C. I have been practicing medicine for 15 years now and working specifically with Lyme patients for 12. I started in Lyme disease working with a prior Lyme practitioner, and I didn't know much about it at the time. I was hopeful that I'd be on the cusp of, new science and new developments, and I'm sad to say that not a lot has changed since then. So I'm excited to be here to see what kind of innovations and what next steps can be taken. I'm on.
All right, folks, welcome back here. We will hop back in with this feed as we are able to here on Live Impact News. But it is time to take a quick break. In about 2 minutes when we return, we see that our Autumn Bracey has just logged on and will be chatting with us in just a couple of minutes regarding this homicide that happened in East Charlotte near a daycare. So she's getting some new information for us and digging up what she can. Joining us once again in 2 minutes on the other side of this break. Welcome back, everyone, to Live Impact News. We are checking in now with a homicide that we've been following throughout the day here on Live Impact News and on our regular newscasts on WCNC+. Our Autumn Bracey has been digging for more information regarding this man shot and killed in East Charlotte, and this was something that happened around North Sharon Amity Road near Independence Boulevard. Autumn's joining us right now remotely, so thank you so much for being with us here. What can you tell us about this incident?
Yeah, that's right, Vanessa. So, in that homicide, 44-year-old Albert Lowry was killed. It happened around 3 a.m. this morning. That's when CMPD was called to that scene. I know you referenced it along the 2300 block of North Sharon Amity Road. And I actually spoke with his wife briefly. She didn't, obviously this is a very troubling time for her, so she didn't want to go on camera, but it's definitely very devastating. We actually, my photographer and I, we went to the scene where it happened. And one startling thing about it is it happened right outside of a daycare, Tender Hearts Child Care Incorporated. Now, thankfully, this incident happened 3 a.m. in the morning, so no one was inside at the time, and they are closed today, that establishment. But it's still very troubling. Officers within CMPD, their homicide unit, they're asking, because the suspect is still on the loose, they're asking if anyone has any information related to this case to come forward. Of course, CMPD has been busy throughout the day collecting evidence. When we were out there a few hours ago, we were actually able to see some of in their vehicle kind of at that point where that shooting happened. But yeah, the search continues for that suspect, and so people are definitely encouraged to come forward if they have any information.
Now, you mentioned that this is near a daycare. I could see from some of the footage that we shot overnight, this also appears to be around some residences as well. It looked like maybe there was a front door step that was part of some of the video that was shot. Have you been able to speak with neighbors? And if so, has anyone heard or seen anything that they think might be relevant to the investigation, or did they witness anything?
I did speak with a few neighbors. Obviously, some of them not comfortable to go on camera, but one woman actually did go on camera with me, and she was able to share that she's only lived nearby where that shooting happened for about a year, but she says that she's never experienced anything like it. She hasn't heard any shootings, doesn't know of any shootings that has happened since she's lived there, so she's definitely on high alert, especially the fact that the suspect is still on the loose. And so she said she was actually asleep because the incident happened around 3 a.m. when it all kind of unfolded. She said that she kind of got up and peered out her door to kind of see what happened, and she said she was able to see some of the police presence. So later on this evening at 5 and 6, you'll hear people will have the opportunity to hear her reaction to this event as it unfolded.
All right. Yeah. Speaking of the elements in the interviews that you'll be having for us when you put your piece together for us this evening, when can we see your pieces and any sort of specific angles you might be covering hour by hour, depending on when your pieces are running tonight?
So I'll have a story at 5 and 6, and so you'll have reaction from police as far as their thoughts on this. They were able to share that they do believe this is an isolated incident, so there's no threat to the general public. So you'll hear their reaction from this incident, and you'll hear that woman I spoke with as well that lives nearby. So you'll have the opportunity to hear both of those during the 5 and 6 o'clock newscast.
All right, Autumn, thank you so much. We appreciate you taking the time as you gather more information for us this afternoon. And we'll see you later tonight here on WCNC Plus.
Thank you.
All right, folks, time to take a quick break once again. Back in 2 minutes. We are still watching that feed with the roundtable on Lyme disease, courtesy of Health Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. Still have some speakers that you could see kind of as we pop in briefly with the feed. Still want to take that break, Carlene? We'll return. Okay, back in 2 minutes, and we will return with this feed then. All right, back here to the Live Impact News studio, I'm Vanessa Rufus. We've been keeping an eye for the last, I'd say, 20 minutes or so, this feed with the roundtable on Lyme disease, headed up by Health Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr., hearing from various stakeholders in the topic, talking about early detection of the disease, how to care for it, and what the federal government is doing to prioritize research and treatment of the disease. So let's listen in as folks are telling their stories.
Money with doctor appointments, blood tests, heart monitors, and imaging. The medical system tosses back and forth, leaving us at the end of the road broken with misdiagnoses, little in our wallets, and no answers. If it wasn't for my relationship with Christ, I would have lost hope. I've been fighting Lyme disease for more than 5 years. Currently, I'm being treated by Lyme Layer provider Carrie Hodges. I'm very thankful for just the blessing she's been in my life. She works with long COVID doctor Jordan Vaughn. As you all know, patients need better and affordable testing. We need insurance to cover our treatments because we pay out of pocket. Thankfully, organizations like Limelight help patients with this. Lastly, one Lyme sufferer said, "Let me know if you find something that works." Some patients spend years sinking all of their money into treatment, but they don't get better. We are hoping for more research to know what works. Secretary Kennedy, I know that you understand the impact of Lyme disease, and I want to say thank you and thank you all. I know that you all are fighting for us and are dedicated to gold standard care. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Olivia Goodrow. I'm 21 years old and I have been battling tick-borne diseases for 14 years now. It took... Yes, I can. Better? Wonderful. I'm 21 years old and I've been battling tick-borne diseases for 14 years now. It took 51 doctors and 18 months for me to just be diagnosed with Lyme disease. Then it took another 3 years and 4 more doctors to be diagnosed with 5 other co-infections. At 12 years old, I started the Live Lyme Foundation to give money to kids to afford their Lyme disease medication, to give funding, and to promote awareness. Starting at 13, I began developing apps, including Tick Tracker, the Long Haul Tracker, and Tickmojis, which I will talk about later. Through Live Lyme, I've hosted 6 scientific international summits that have had participants from over 50 different countries. I've also written my memoir, But She Looks Fine, From Illness to Activism, which details how I turned Lyme disease into Lyme-Aid. Lastly, I am a junior at UCLA, and I am working with renowned scientists on rapid diagnostics for tick-borne diseases. Secretary Kennedy, thank you so much for inviting me here today, and thank you all here for the incredible work that you do, and I look forward to making history.
Hi, thank you so much for convening this meeting. My name is Lyndon Hu. I'm an infectious disease physician at Tufts University, so I think I'm probably part of that ivory tower. But I will be the first to admit that we have not, in the 25 years I've been doing basic science, patient treatment, and clinical science, been able to come up with satisfactory answers for patients and cures. And I think we need to do better. I will say, though, that I am probably the most excited I've ever been during my career at the opportunities we have to actually solve this right now. Science, that's thanks a lot to people in this room, at this table, and also in the audience here, in terms of bringing attention, focus, and funding to this problem. And I think we're at a very unique point in science where we now have the tools to do things. Traditionally, we've done science, in very precise, elegant ways, looking at one potential hypothesis at a time. But now, with the technology that we have, we can do what's called unbiased science and look at all the hypotheses at once and have the patient and the patient data tell us what's the important thing to be looking at. So to that end, I'll just mention 2 things that we're involved in at Tufts. One is an NIH-funded study to enroll 1,000 patients with Lyme disease so that we can put them through all these what are called multi-omic tests and come to some answers with that. But one of the unique things that we're doing with that study is that we are actually using clinicians on the front lines and as our research centers. And so they're the ones who are involved in bringing the patients to us, enrolling them, and being involved in telling us what they're seeing. So we've learned a lot through that trial. And we're only in our first year in terms of how to work with clinicians, busy clinicians who are not prepared to do research, and what kinds of support we need to give them to be able to do the best kinds of research. The other thing I'll just mention quickly is that we're also involved in a drug repurposing study. We've just completed screening 50,000 compounds against Lyme disease, many of which we found active are actually very common, safe medications. I'm not sure where we're going to go with those eventually, but the idea is that we are now taking that. We're on our way to 100,000, and we are going to take that, feed that with our collaborators into a machine learning artificial intelligence model where we can then screen virtual libraries of hundreds of billions of compounds quickly to identify the parts of the ones that we actually screen physically that are the most active, because repurposed drugs are not designed for treatment of Lyme disease. But if we can figure out what makes them active using machine learning, we can develop better drugs for that. So I'll stop there, and thank you so much for convening this.
Thank you, Dr. Hu.
Thank you very much. I'm Morgan Griffith. I represent the 9th District of Virginia, which is southwest, western, and parts of central Virginia. Needless to say, we are a hotspot, like so many others, for tick-borne illnesses, and cases have been increasing. Lyme disease is devastating, and Virginia Tech in my district is doing some research to understand the prevalence and gather more information into Lyme disease and other tick-borne illnesses. I would be remiss, and I think we all agree, that Chris Smith has just done amazing work, and I'm hopeful that we can get his Hagen Tick Act through the Energy and Commerce Committee. As chairman of the Health Subcommittee, I will do everything I can to get it on there early. We got a little slowed down by the shutdown, but hopefully we'll get this done next year. That's important for those who want to use a vaccine. FDA is working on clinical trials on a vaccine for Lyme disease. For what that's worth, we'll see what the studies show. The repurposing of existing medical compounds, any way that I can help on that makes perfect sense. Use things that we already have tested on the human body as being safe, and let's go forward with that. I will tell you, and I'll switch gears just a little bit, you mentioned alpha-gal. I will tell you that too, it's not, in most cases, it's not nearly as devastating, but good doctors out there in the field, people paying attention to what's going on. I have long had allergies. So I have my, at that time, infant, relatively young son in with me seeing the allergist. And my allergist, Dr. Saju Epen out of Roanoke, Virginia, said to me, have you been having any problems lately? I said, well, I've been following my diet strictly. I'm not eating the things I'm not supposed to eat, but I keep getting an upset stomach and I can't figure out why. This would be about 2010, maybe 2011. He says, let me do a test. Sure enough, I have alpha-gal syndrome. Now I have a very mild case. It causes some stomach upset. But as we had discussions over the years, he told me that there was a case that he was aware of, I'm not sure it was his, where a lady kept breaking out in hives, going into anaphylaxis. And it turned out to be dryer sheets with beef tallow. So some people have severe reactions. Mine, it's annoying, but it's not severe. I kept telling my other son, who's a teenager, that he needed to be careful going out in the woods. You mentioned that, Mr. Secretary. He's big on hunting and fishing and bow hunting, you name it, he does it. I said, don't wear your shorts, wear long pants, protect yourself. And so I'm kind of excited that you mentioned we've got to get word out there on prevention as well for all of these tick-borne diseases. Fortunately, he has not contracted any of the diseases as of this date, but he wouldn't listen to Dad. But when his best friend came down with alpha-gal, all of a sudden, I haven't said anything, but I noticed he's wearing the long pants now, Mr. Secretary. Dad's experience didn't help him, but his best friend did. But these are things that we can work on as we go forward. And last but not least, since we've got a little bit of a platform here, I'm going to mention Revivicor. I'm kind of excited, and I'm going to the poor dog can't wag his own tail. I'm going to wag my tail a little bit on this one. I have no interest in Rivicor for those who worry about it. I don't own any stock. It's a company that does medicinal stuff. It does organs. In order to transplant organs from pigs and cows, they had to take out the alpha-gal protein genetically from those animals. And I suggested to them in early 2020 that they look into having their product that they originally designed, the genetic work in my district, and look to the FDA to see if they could get it approved for food. In late 2020, they got it approved. There's an alpha-gal safe pig product out there, but no major supplier has picked up the license on it. But it's out there for those people who suffer from that. So that's a minor one. But then I asked Davis Michaels, who does incredible work for me in my office, to come up with a list of all the different ones. And we know about everybody knows about the big three: Lyme, alpha-gal, Rocky Mountain spotted fever. But my goodness, there's close to a dozen, if not more, diseases. And I'm learning so much listening to all the co-infections and so forth that are going on here. That's why this hearing or meeting today is so important, Mr. Secretary. Thank you so much. And as chairman of the Health Subcommittee of Energy and Commerce, I'll do whatever I can to help move these things along, not just Chris Smith's bill, which he's been the champion on for years and years, but anything else that we can do to improve situations on lots of diseases. But today we'll focus on tick-borne illnesses. And thank you so much for doing this. And I yield.
Thank you, Chairman. I asked Dr. Oz to come here to talk about some of the funding options for Americans who may get sick.
So first off, let me make it clear to all of you, if you didn't already realize it, that this Sentinel event, this roundtable on Lyme, would never have happened if it wasn't for Secretary Kennedy sitting calmly next to me, not being so calm all the time, taking a, he looks mild-mannered here, but you get him going on things like Lyme, and it gets him agitated for a very good reason. The massive ship that is HHS, even with the great captain, cannot change direction unless he's barking about it all the time. And I learned early on that when you mix medicine with politics, you know what you get? Politics. There's no.
All right, folks, so we're going to pivot away from that roundtable on Lyme disease, as we are seeing a brand new feed coming in here on Live Impact News. As we speak, we've got the Nebraska Jewish Federation of Omaha making a address right now, and this is in the wake of that deadly shooting that killed at least 15 people during that Hanukkah celebration in Bondi Beach, Australia, over the weekend. Let's listen in right now.
Open their hearts and raise their voices in support of our brothers and sisters. Together, let us pray that the warm lights of Hanukkah will spread their spirit of freedom and reach comfort and sustain every person who is suffering tonight. Those are not my words. Those words were spoken by President Ronald Reagan 42 years ago. Eerie, in a macabre way, how unfortunately these words are timeless and appropriate today and in today's world. Yesterday, on the first night of Hanukkah, we were reminded of the hate and anti-Semitism that Jews are still subjected to throughout the world. On what was to be a day and night of celebration and joy at Bondi Beach's Hanukkah by the Sea, a tragic and horrific scene exploded as two gunmen indiscriminately hunted down innocent and defenseless Jews, including a 10-year-old boy and a Holocaust survivor. At least 16 people were senselessly killed, dozens wounded, and countless traumatized. The victims will never be able to light a candle for any night of this or any future Hanukkah, for their lights have been extinguished. Let us pray for their memories. Let us pray for their souls. Let us pray for our friends and families of the Jewish faith. Let us remember that the menorah's light is a symbol of hope and faith, and that it can lead us out of darkness, of hate. And let those who hate understand that hate has no place in Australia, it has no place in the UK, it has no place in France, and it has no place in the United States of America. Hate has no place anywhere. Thank you.
Thank you all for those beautiful words. Please welcome our campus security manager, James Donahue.
We are gathered here in the shadow of the horrific shooting this past weekend in Australia. Our hearts are with the victims, their families, and the entire Jewish community. An attack on Jews anywhere is an attack on Jewish people everywhere. We stand in mourning and in solidarity with the victims abroad. In moments of tragedy and heightened fear, we are profoundly reminded of the partners who stand beside us to ensure not just the safety of the Jewish people, but the safety of all people to live and worship in peace. Therefore, on behalf of the Jewish Federation of Omaha and the community it represents, we extend our deepest and most sincere gratitude to our law enforcement partners represented here today, from the FBI, Nebraska State Patrol, Douglas County Sheriff's Department, and the Omaha Police Department. Every single day, and especially in times of crisis, these dedicated men and women put their lives on the line to protect community centers, our places of worship, our schools, our neighborhoods. We do not take this for granted. We are grateful not just for their visible presence, but for the vital partnership we have built together. This is not a static relationship. It is an active and ongoing collaboration. We appreciate the open lines of communication, the joint trainings, and the genuine concern they show for the community's well-being. This partnership is a powerful force against hatred. It's a clear message that those who seek to spread violence or terror will be met with a community of resilience and professional dedication. To our law enforcement officers and agencies, thank you. We see your commitment, we value your courage, and we are proud to stand with you in the mission of protecting all of our citizens from harm. I would now like to introduce ASAC Andrew Mitchell from the FBI.
Thank you, James. Thank you, Sharon. And thank you, Bob, for the invitation to be here today. As was said, I'm Andrew Mitchell, Assistant Special Agent in charge for the FBI here in Omaha. Our partners in Australia are dealing with an unimaginable tragedy. What should have been a celebration on a beach turned into a mass casualty event. Our prayers are with the Australian people as they navigate the days and the weeks ahead. As we speak, the FBI is providing requested assistance to Australian authorities as they continue their investigation into this heinous act. We are certainly not immune to hatred-fueled violence in the United States. Unfortunately, history has shown that active shooter and mass casualty incidents are threats faced by communities across America. But our communities do not stand alone. Everyone here plays a crucial role in preventing and stopping attacks. We found that in most mass violence events, someone close to the offender noticed concerning behaviors prior to that attack. We urge everyone to remain vigilant and report any threats of violence or suspicious activity to law enforcement, especially as we proceed through the holiday season. As with any potential threat to the United States, we will coordinate with our partners both domestically and abroad to ensure they have the resources and information necessary to keep our communities safe. You can report threat information or suspicious activity to us, the FBI, online at tips.fbi.gov You can also call 1-800-CALL-FBI. If the activity involves imminent violence or threat to life, please call 911. Thank you.
I would now like to introduce Captain John Sokolik.
Thank you. On behalf of Chief Schmatter and all of the men and women of the Omaha Police Department, I would like to express condolences to the families and friends of the victims of the Bondi Beach horror. We too stand in solidarity with the global Jewish community. The entire law enforcement community in this area will always vigorously investigate crimes of anti-Semitic nature and stand ready and willing to protect all citizens and intervene when acts of violence occur. That is our collective promise to this entire community. Our city has absolutely no room for hate. Thank you.
I would now like to introduce Harmony Maples from the Anti-Defamation League.
Thank you all for being here today. Anti-Defamation League's mission statement for over 110 years is to stop the defamation of the Jewish people and secure justice and fair treatment for all. ADL extends its condolences to the victims and their families in Australia and to Chabad for the loss of their colleague. Anti-Semitic incidents have skyrocketed nationally over the last several years, from 2,700 to over 9,000. But Hanukkah will not be extinguished by anti-Semitism or by any extremist organizations or individuals anywhere on the political spectrum. ADL Center on Extremism will continue to monitor extremist organizations and individuals around the country. And even in the face of hatred, we continue to gather, to celebrate, and to shine our light into the world. This is not a time for fear to govern us, but rather a time for vigilance, solidarity, and hope. Thank you.
I'd like to call on Rabbi Mendel Katzman of Chabad of Nebraska.
All right, folks, looks like we just lost that feed, but we are going to take a quick break. Good timing for that. Back in 2 minutes with much more. As you can see, we had our 3-box going, lots of other feeds that we've been watching around the area. And we also have coming up in probably about a half hour or so, sit-down interview with a guest. This is going to be a veteran-related topic. Really think folks are going to be finding this illuminative. So let's keep it here on Live Impact. Back in 2, and we'll rejoin with one of our feeds when we return. All right, folks, back here in Live Impact Studio, I'm Vanessa Rufus. Turning back to our 3-box, we continue to listen in here to the Jewish Federation of Nebraska making an address following this past weekend's deadly attack at a Hanukkah event in Bondi Beach, Australia. You'll see also in our 3-box, the Lyme Disease Roundtable does continue, hosted by Health and Human Services Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. And top left corner, the search for the shooting suspect is still underway in Providence, Rhode Island. We've got officers on that feed. You can see kind of going around town. We know that this afternoon they went door to door looking for video footage that could help them track down the person who killed 2 students and injured 9 others at Brown University this past weekend. Let's listen right now to Omaha.
We don't have any bad stuff to report anymore, and we'll just look at happy, joyous, beautiful, wishful, messianic occasions ahead of us. Thank you.
Rabbi Stephen Abraham from Bethel Synagogue.
My deep thanks to the Jewish Federation and to Bob for making today possible, unfortunately. We gather today with broken hearts after the brutal terrorist attack at Sydney's Bondi Beach, and we mourn the innocent lives that were taken. We grieve with their families, and we stand in solidarity with a community that was shaken by hatred and violence. Jewish tradition teaches that whoever destroys a single life destroys an entire world. Terrorism is an attempt to deny that truth, to declare that some lives are disposable. Judaism rejects that absolutely. We are speaking today, as so many have mentioned, during the holiday of Hanukkah, a Jewish festival born in a time of terror and persecution. Hanukkah does not celebrate power or conquest. It celebrates the decision to light a flame when darkness surrounded us, to insist that moral truth still matters. The rabbis taught that we increase light 1 candle at a time. The teaching is not sentimental, it is defiant. It tells us that when civilians are targeted, when fear is meant to silence us, the response must be clarity, courage, and solidarity. Hanukkah teaches us that when terror spreads darkness, our obligation as humans, our obligations as people, our obligations as friends and community members is not to retreat and to hide, but to bring more light into the public square. So we stand with our community today, and we stand with this community of Sydney, and with all the people of conscience. May the memories of the victims be a blessing, and may we light candles as Hanukkah, and may they remind us in the world that human dignity cannot and will never be extinguished. Thank you.
Rabbi Ben Sharf from Temple Israel.
Thank you, Bob. Thank you to our elected officials and to members of law enforcement, to all of you for being here today. To take a slightly different tone, last night, Temple Israel, we gathered together to celebrate the first night of the Festival of Hanukkah. It was a gathering that was months in planning. We had over 200 people sign up to come. And then Sunday morning, we received the news of the horrors that occurred in Australia. And we realized that we needed to up our security presence to make sure every member of our community felt safe, that they felt they were looked after and being watched over. We reached out to our friends in OPD, in law enforcement, to Federation, and to the state of Nebraska, and they responded tremendously. There was an incredible presence both at the front of our building, in the back, and even on social media to demonstrate that these are our friends and they will not have to gather and celebrate their Judaism in fear. This has not always been the case throughout the history for us as Jews. We know that we are targeted, we know that hate exists in the world, and we know that there is far too much tolerance for intolerance and hate speech. We know that anti-Semitism has been running rampant, but we also know that we have friends. And so many of you are here today, and we're so grateful for your presence to know that we have allies, not just in what it means to celebrate our Judaism, but to be able to stand up against hate, and to be able to do the song that we sang, the last song we sang last night, to light 1 candle. Tonight, we're going to light another candle, and then the next night, another after that. We're going to keep lighting them, knowing that even as our hearts are heavy, we have friends, we have allies, we have you to help be partners with us, to help protect us, to help us work together to make this world better, to be able to light that candle and to be a light. So thank you to all of you. We're tremendously grateful for everything you do for us, and know that we are proud supporters of you and proud to be honored and to stand with you as we combat the evils of hate and anti-Semitism in this world. For those lights will be extinguished, even as ours continue to shine ever brighter. Thank you.
Rabbi Mordechai Geiger from Beth Israel Synagogue.
Before anything else, I want to express my deepest condolences to the families of those who were murdered in the recent anti-Semitic terror attack, now confirmed to have taken the lives of 15 and wounded countless others. For their loved ones and for a Jewish community once again forced to grieve lives taken simply because they were Jewish. Thank you to the Jewish Federation for convening us, and thank you to our local leaders, neighbors, and members of the Omaha community for being here. I want to speak personally for a moment. My wife and I, we love this city. We love this community, and in times like this, we see how much this city gives back to us. We are grateful to all those who stand with us today. We're grateful for those who speak clearly, for their intolerance for anti-Semitism and for terror. This clarity matters. I'm here as a rabbi, as a neighbor, as a father, as a husband, who cares deeply about the world that we are leaving to our children. And I want us all to ask that question: what world are we leaving to our children? This attack was not only an assault on Jews, it was an assault on the moral foundation of a civilized society. Terrorism is barbarity. Anti-Semitism is one of the most dangerous forms of hate, and moral clarity requires that we name both of them for what they are. We call upon people of conscience, Jews and non-Jews alike, to stand up clearly against anti-Semitism in all its forms. Silence and ambiguity allow hate to spread. Moral clarity stops it. We are deeply grateful to all the community leaders who are here today, and we also call upon to our elected officials at every level, not only to speak but to act. In recent days, many have shared a teaching from the Rabbi Eli Schlenger of Sydney. Before his murder, he taught that in face of these times, we have to spread more light. We have to do more good. We have to stand proud for who we are. And after the fateful party this weekend, his family and colleagues have pushed only stronger that we stand proud, that we don't hide. This idea resonates deeply, not just as a slogan, but as a responsibility. This is what we're doing here in Omaha. We are showing up, we are strengthening one another, and we are asking our neighbors and our leaders to stand with us in clarity, courage, and action. Thank you.
At this time, I would like to ask my colleague Sharon Brodke, the Executive Director of the Jewish Community Relations Council, to wrap us up.
Thank you all for this very affirming moment in time at this very dark hour. And I want to say that I went home last night after the Temple Hanukkah party, and I lit my Chanukiot in my window proudly. They will be there, and they will, I may even just keep them lit up until the end of the year, who knows, because we need a lot of light. At this time, if the media has any questions for our guests, this might be a good opportunity, or we can ask, as long as they can stay around, if you want to have individual meetings with them outside in the lobby, we can make that happen as well. Would anybody like to bring anybody else up to the podium for a question from the media?
Well, it sounds like this press conference here in Nebraska is wrapping up, coming to a close pretty shortly. So with that, we are going to take a quick break here on Live Impact to return with one of the new feeds you actually just saw a few moments ago in that 3 box in the bottom left corner. A new aviation discussion that's just getting underway with Senators Ted Cruz and Maria Cantwell regarding the NDAA. So that's that Defense Policy Act that is getting a lot of headlines because of lots of criticism, including from the NTSB itself, regarding rollbacks of some protections that were put in place and regulations following that deadly midair collision from back in January, which we know had impacts on our area as there was a Charlotte-based flight crew whose lives were taken in that collision. So back in 2 minutes with this feed, you can see they just got underway a few moments ago, so we'll be able to catch almost near the beginning of things when we get back here. All right, folks, back here in the Live Impact News studio, we want to join now with this live feed that just got underway out of Washington, D.C. Senators Ted Cruz and Maria Cantwell are holding this press conference regarding Defense Policy Act, as well as the Rotorcraft Operations Transparency and Oversight Reform Act. There's been a lot of discussion lately and headlines regarding rolling back of some safety protocols that were put into place following that mid-air collision over D.C. back in January. Let's go ahead and listen in to hear. Looks like we've got Senator Ted Cruz who's speaking right now.
They're landing at Reagan about an hour after the accident. I could just as easily have been standing there holding a photograph as you are. And this is unacceptable. I want to start by reading a statement from Tim and Sherry Lilly. Tim and Sherry Lilly are the parents of American Airlines Flight 5342 First Officer Sam Lilly. They previously participated in the Rotor press conference this year. Quote, "We oppose this provision in the strongest possible terms. If it can't be changed before passage, we strongly urge Congress to update the language in Section 373 of the fiscal year 2026 National Defense Authorization Act as soon as possible. Our collective standards must be higher. All the users of our national airspace deserve better. This bill recreates the risks and loopholes President Trump's administration eliminated after the January 29th collision that took 67 souls, including our son Sam. I now turn to Amy Hunter and Laura Ajandra, who lost their cousin Peter in the DCA crash, and also Christina Stovall, who lost her son Mickey. They are here representing the other families of Flight 5342.
Hello, my name is Laura Ojan. My cousin Peter Livingston, his wife Donna, and their two girls, Everly and Lydia, were on Flight 5342. I want you to see their faces. This is a beautiful family, a branch of our family tree that is no longer here. Shortly after the tragedy of Flight 5342, we started talking about what happened and why. People listened, but there was something missing. There was no shock. There was no real disbelief. Instead, we kept hearing the same thing, that this was an accident waiting to happen. Hearing that was like salt being poured on an open wound. If this was an accident that was waiting to happen, then it could have been prevented. It should have been prevented. Immediately after the collision, safety measures were finally put into place, measures that should have been there before our loved ones were lost. Rolling those back now does not move us forward. It puts people at risk. Now is time to build on that progress, not to reverse it. There's already a bipartisan solution ready, the Rotor Act, presented by Senators Cruz and Cantwell. We are asking that Section 373 of the NDAA be struck and replaced with the Rotor Act so that safety is strengthened, not weakened. We're not here to make political statements. We're here as families who lost people we love, we're demanding that the system do better. No family should ever have to stand where we are standing today. We expect better, and people deserve better. Safety must come first. We ask for thoughtful, evidence-based improvements that honor the memory of those we lost and protect every family that flies.
Hi, thank you for everybody being here. My name's Amy Hunter. We appreciate the decisive leadership that President Trump and Secretary Duffy showed immediately after the crash by implementing the urgent safety recommendations recommended by NTSB and prioritizing the modernization of our national airspace. Section 373 in the current National Defense Authorization Act now threatens to undo everything all the progress that was already made. And it will compromise the safety around Reagan National Airport. President Trump has been delivering airspace safety. We urge him to intervene. Strike this provision and replace it with Rotor. We ask Congress, strike this provision and replace it with Rotor. Strong leadership to keep Americans safe. Thank you very much.
Give me a second. Okay. Okay. In memory of Mikey and there were 7 hunters. My name is Christina Stovall, and I stand before you as a mother who has lost her son, Mikey. Mikey was a father, an outdoorsman, and a man who loved life with a laugh that filled a room and kindness that made strangers feel like family. He taught his son, Jake, how to fish, hunt, and how to track the seasons, and how to find joy in the small, ordinary moments. Losing him has left a silence in our home that nothing can fill. Remembering a life lived fully. Mikey did not live a life of the headlines or grand gestures. He lived simple and well. He brightened every room he walked into, and he carried with him the kind and steady, generous spirit that made people want to be better. When I close my eyes, I see him on the riverbanks, sun on his face, teaching his little one how to cast a line. That image is a gift and a wound because it is also a reminder of what was taken from us too soon. For all the families, we fear the phone call. I can't say any more, but I would like to name all 7 of our hunters, besides our son, Mikey Stovall. We had my husband's best friend, Tommy Claggett. We got Steve Johnson. We have John Boyd. We have Alex Huffman, Jesse Pitcher, and Charlie McDaniels. 7 guys who told their kids, "I'll see you when I get back." Now, our grandson, Mikey's son, is worried because Mikey said, "I'll be back." When his mom leaves and says, "Jake, I'll be back," he's having a hard time. We don't live in this area. We live in Florida. Jake, if his mom is not around and doesn't come back in time, he calls me in Florida. No parent should have to go through this. We are so blessed to have Senator Cruz, Cantwell, President Trump, and Secretary of Transportation Duffy, the NTSB, and everybody. And I may be showing tears, but I am grateful for all of them. And please just keep our family in your thoughts and prayers because Christmas is going to be so empty. Thank you.
Thank you, Christina, Amy, Laura. We'll open it up for questions now. Yeah. We don't have a firm commitment on that yet, but I'm hopeful that we will. And joining together with this bipartisan press conference with the families, I think is an important part to I hope, unifying the Senate. This should be a 100-0 matter. It was unanimous on the Commerce Committee, and it should be unanimous on the Senate floor.
When do you expect to get an answer, a firm decision?
I think this week.
Have you gotten an explanation from Armed Services or the Defense Department why this ended up in the bill?
You know, amazingly, we have not. This was a provision that nobody had seen. This is a provision that didn't go through the ordinary clearances. Normally, when you're adding a provision to the NDAA that impacts aviation, you would request clearance from the chairman and ranking member of the Senate Commerce Committee. No clearance was requested. We discovered this provision when the final version of the bill dropped out of the House and it was passed. I think very few House members had any idea it was in there. And in the days since it was dropped, we have not seen a single representative step forward and say, I authored that provision, and I agree with giving the military a special exception, particularly given that the special exception cost the lives of 67 souls in January of this year. Yeah.
What about President Trump or anyone else in the White House? Have you had an opportunity to talk about this with them? If the Senate passes this, it goes to the dead.
Yeah. So I was at the White House last week with the president. I spoke with the president's team about it last week. As we noted, the president and Secretary Duffy acted swiftly in the wake of this accident to end the military's exception. The military had written a memorandum of understanding that created an exception that was designed to be for national security purposes. I suppose if a plane was carrying a nuclear weapon to some place that was highly classified, you might understand limited circumstances where you would not be transmitting location. But this was a training flight that was crossing right across a runway on DCA Reagan. And unfortunately, the Pentagon had implemented a policy of using the exception 100% of the time. That was indefensible. And so this provision, part of the reason nobody's claiming credit for it in the House, is this provision tries to reverse what President Trump did and it tries to reverse what Secretary Duffy did, and that's not defensive. Senator Cantwell wants to.
Well, we did hear, I think it was a statement put out by the SAS committee in House and Senate that they were going to rely on the TCAS system, which anybody who spent any time on aviation issues know that that system is not designed that's an alarm system that's used at a much different stage in aviation, not in the landing phase. So it's not something that people recommend. And clearly nothing that the NTSB or FAA said was a solution to this, when previously the military and the FAA said we were going to close this loophole. So people are surprised. I think maybe those members, now that they've heard that that's not really a technology solution for this incident, maybe they're asking people how this got in there too. You know, maybe that was the line they gave them, that this is why it was there, that they thought there was some solution, but it's not a solution. And nobody who is serious about aviation thinks that it's a solution. So I don't know if there was confusion, but it's time to just take it out.
Karen Emergence from the New York Times. To your point, Senator Cruz, this wasn't the final version of what the House passed back in September, and to some extent there must have been discussions about helicopter aviation safety because you were pushing for the Rotor Act to be included in Congress. So why did we only start to hear the concern and the panic about this last week, given that there were several months where that was clearly on offer as part of that?
Well, this provision didn't go through the ordinary clearance process that the NDAA normally undergoes. Had they sought clearance from the Commerce Committee, both the chairman and ranking member would have objected, not just objected, but objected emphatically. And I can tell you in the Senate, I have not found a single senator who defends this provision. When you look at it on the merits in light of what happened, it is indefensible. And look, sometimes the swamp operates in the dead of night, but it shouldn't here, not when 67 lives were lost this year. We owe it to not only those who lost their lives on that January night, but to every other member of the flying public who gets on a plane, who puts their son or daughter or their mom or dad on a plane. We owe it to them to prevent another accident like that from happening again.
Yeah, if this was suggested in the House version, I became aware of it when it was being sent, and we objected that day when we found out it was going to be voted on in the House of Representatives. So.
Sorry, back in September, or
No, when I became aware that that language was in the NDAA the day that it was voted on in the House of Representatives, the day of or the day before. So I don't know whether people thought that that was language that was going to be in this proposal, but I'm just telling you when I became aware of it.
Thank you, Senator. Grady Trimble with Fox Business. What's your level of concern that the House-passed version of the bill could actually pass the Senate? Is it possible or probable? And secondly, what would the consequences of that be?
Look, I think the rest of the House-passed bill is going to pass the Senate. It's going to pass the Senate with strong bipartisan votes. There are important provisions in the NDAA that I support, that I'm sure Senator Cantwell supports. But this provision, which was airdropped in at the last minute, has the support of nobody, and it is indefensible. And so in my view, we should strip it out. And the House, it would require the House to pass it again, but that's a fairly easy thing. They had over 300 votes the first time to pass it, so they would easily pass it again, and we could put it on the president's desk by the end of the week.
I think it begs a larger question. How is it that we're in this situation to begin with? How did we have Route 4 and military helicopters on the same flight path, or at least the ability to be within a few hundred feet of each other? And how is it that when a rule was written saying everybody had to have this kind of broadcast system so planes could know where they were?
And folks, we'll continue to follow this dialogue here about the defense policy that's being debated right now in Congress, as well as the Rotor Act, which we've covered for you at length here on WCNC Plus previously. We've got actually some articles existing on our website, WCNC.com, if you want to learn more about that. And we'll have much more as well for you in our newscast later tonight. Time for a quick break. Wanted to let you know, though, before we head to break, because we're in the holiday spirit, and we hope that you get into the holiday spirit as well, we've cooked up something special. So we just want to let you know that starting Tuesday, right after Live Impact News at 9 p.m., we'll be streaming the parades from around the Piedmont over on WCNC Plus as you're watching us. So just keep it here after Live Impact News in the evenings, and you'll run right into all of these parades. So you can kind of get an idea of the timing of all of this. And just so you know, this is just the beginning, because through the rest of the year, you can catch all of our holiday events anytime on the WCNC app. So just a little way that we like to kind of support your holiday feels, and we'll continue to remind you of these offerings as we go on throughout the coming days and weeks. So with that, we'll take our quick break back in 2 minutes. As we mentioned, we're talking about really important veterans-related cause that is happening here in North Carolina. So we hope you stay with us. We've got an in-studio interview coming up in 2. We'll see you then. Hi, folks. Thanks so much for sticking with us here on Live Impact News. As we mentioned for you, we are talking about an important veterans-related cause right now. I know we're in the holiday spirit. We talked about all the parades, right, the last couple of minutes that you could see around. You know, another big portion of the holiday season is the giving spirit, right, and wanting to see what kind of groups are out there that you might want to support. I know we had Giving Tuesday a couple of weeks ago. There's still plenty of time to give, and we know that there are a lot of deserving groups around there. So with that, we actually want to introduce the group Charlie Mike. Came all the way from Liberty, North Carolina to join us here in the Live Impact News studio here in Charlotte. So thank you so much, first of all, for making the drive, but also for what y'all do. And I think folks will be really interested to hear about Charlie Mike, how this got started, and how you're helping veterans. Just to kind of introduce here, we have Justin Gladwell, who's the founder and a veteran. So Dustin here is in the top left box. We've got Sarah Magracia, who is also with Charlie Mike, Battle Buddies program lead. So we'll talk about what Battle Buddies is just a bit. But folks, I guess just talk about Charlie Mike. How did this get started, and what do you specifically focus on?
Well, first, thank you for having us, and it's not that big of a drive, so it wasn't so hard to make our way out, and it gave us a good excuse to kind of step away for the afternoon and talk about something that's important to us, obviously. Charlie Mike We just had our 3-year anniversary on Veterans Day.
Yeah.
We launched operationally, kind of like our program and our public-facing part of what we do. 3 years ago, we chose Veterans Day for all the obvious reasons as our first official day. The organization, however, we launched it 4 years ago this week, in fact. And so it took us about just right at 11 months to get up and running and figure it out. And even more than that, Charlie Mike is something that I have been working on for maybe 10 years prior, 2 or 3 different iterations of the business plan or the idea, getting it up and running, getting the funding, because helping veterans and finding additional or different or better ways than just going to the VA or other, let's just say traditional or obvious ways of helping veterans. I wanted to do something a little bit more. It's evolved from a few different ideas to what it is today, where we have 3 main programs. Our first program is our Canine Battle Buddy program, where we rescue dogs from shelters or other foster or rescue groups. We rehabilitate them, train them at the same foundational level of what a therapy dog would get, and then we adopt them out to veterans, and then now also we do first responders. Our second program is our equine program, where we teach natural horsemanship as a therapeutic approach to healing and a purpose by working with horses. And then our third program that we got up and running finally last year, just when Hurricane Helene hit the mountains, which I know everybody around here is quite familiar with, we have a service component because we all come from the service. We all come from a service-oriented background and mindset. And there are very few things in the civilian world and regular life where we can put our military skills to use. And doing service for the community is good for our own soul and our own healing and helping everybody continue to find that purpose. So disaster relief and other community service or humanitarian type things is the other thing that we do. So what ties all 3 of those programs together is the combination of finding purpose for veterans so that we have a reason to continue on in a new mission in life, and then also to find some sense of meaning and peace and healing where post-military or especially post-combat life is sometimes hard to figure out how to adjust and where to put everything. So
Yeah, I mean, you talked about the fact that you'd been thinking of this for years and years before it actually came to fruition, and you are yourself a veteran. Can you speak on, I guess, why you started kind of going down this path of this is a need that needs to be filled, this is something that's not being addressed? I guess speak from your firsthand experience, if you don't mind.
Sure. There's guys out there and gals that deployed more times than I did, and I know what it's been like to try to deal with it. And, like I said, post-combat, just the whole experience of being in a war zone, being in that experience. I was a combat armed soldier. I was 12 years in the Army. I was in Afghanistan. And knowing that a lot of the services and things that are available, even, it's easy to kind of throw shade at the VA, even though the VA and everybody there probably tries, and they try really hard. It's not enough. It's not always the right solution. It's not always the most adequate solution. Some of the thinking and the mentality are dated or just aren't appropriate. And I fell into that same thing that so many veterans do, where you go to the VA, it's hard to get in, that's probably overworked and understaffed, and they throw a bottle of pills at you and say, take this and be on your way. It didn't work for me, and after 2 days, in fact, it made my situation worse. Yeah, I went to the VA just to try to get some help to sleep. My first couple of years after, a few years after I got back, and they gave me an off-label medication that it didn't help me sleep, but in fact, it actually made it worse. And I literally felt that saying, when you say, I feel like I'm going to crawl out of my skin, that's literally what it felt like. I sat at work. I was still working for the military at the time, and I just couldn't stand it. And I was like, this isn't going to work for me. And so after 2 days, I stopped taking them and then never went back. And I know so many veterans, and then there's so many veterans that are struggling. And the suicide rate amongst veterans is still much higher than people realize. For years and years, everybody's been thinking it's around 22 a day. There's some new studies that have come out from a nonprofit based out of Georgia and Duke University here in North Carolina, along with the University of Alabama, where it looks like that suicide rate might even actually be double what we thought it was for the last 15, 20 years of combat ever since September 11th. The reality is we lose more veterans every year to suicide than we lost in 20 years of combat in Iraq and Afghanistan combined. So it's obviously a problem. So I felt like we as veterans need to step up, take charge, and help ourselves help each other.
I'm curious, too, to talk more about that Battle Buddies program, and I know, Sarama, you're the Battle Buddies program lead here, and not a secret for folks who watch here on WCNC+, but I'm a big rescue dog person, volunteer at the local shelter and foster dogs and have adopted dogs, and so this is something that kind of like tugged at my heart when I hear that not only are you helping veterans, but you're also helping these dogs as well get into homes too. So tell us about this program of Battle Buddies. Battle Buddies, by the way, are the dogs, right? Okay. Yeah, how does that work?
I want to also add to everything that Dustin had just said is Charlie Mike means continue mission in military speak. It's not the name of somebody.
Yeah.
Yeah, good point.
So it's so the same way like Alpha, Bravo, Delta, Charlie Mike is what they say when they're continue mission, keep going. So that's part of the reason why we called it that way, is continue the mission of life after you were in service, right? And I think it answers a lot to everything that Dustin was saying, is just after they finish their military life, now what? How do they fit in the rest of the world? That's part of what we're trying to help achieve. And the Battle Buddies, it just, I learned this later on, that the Battle Buddies is usually what they call the person that is with you in battle, or that person that you kind of like come close to. So I've been doing fostering and dealing with the huge situation with Rescue World and shelters, and you know the numbers, they're awful. So for many years, I've been in that world. And when I met Dustin 11 years ago, almost 11 years ago, I had 6 dogs in my house that I was fostering. It was like our second date, and he came to meet everybody.
What a woman! Sorry.
He was like, you weren't kidding.
I love it.
But she kept blowing me off. She kept giving me excuses, and she's like, I got a house full of dogs. And I was like, okay, what are you going to tell me next? You have to just wash your hair tonight? You know, those old standard excuses. And so finally,
So he showed up, there were all those dogs in the house. He was like, you weren't joking. I was like, I'm not. So he actually started learning about that side of the world, and I saw how, I mean, as the months progressed, what dogs do to every human, right?
Yeah.
They touch you in a way that you can't explain it. They know how to make you feel all the good things and release all that awesome feelings. And I realized that every time that we were in a specific or like hard case, like he would jump even more into action. We had one that we had to go through a window to go get and help out, and he was a massive dog and he was in terrible shape, and I just saw him kind of like coming alive. So he kept talking about Charlie Mike, and we were like, okay, for sure, dogs need to be a component in this, right? And so when our angel donor that helped us start Charlie Mike here in North Carolina, we were actually in Miami. One of my he was like, wait, let's do it in North Carolina. This is where we are. I was like, fantastic, I love it. Can we please at least still get a big percentage of the dogs from the shelter in Miami? Because that's where I've been dedicating all my life. I don't want to just, so we do like 50-50 almost. We've done we've done almost 30 something dogs. I want to say a big chunk comes from Miami, but we also do a lot of local shelters.
Yeah, we've done
from
about
here.
51 dogs. over the
51
first
dogs,
3
that's right.
years.
Yeah, sorry.
And maybe half have been from North Carolina and half have been
Yeah.
from Florida.
So we drive them up from Miami and place them. So to summarize, I know personally what dogs can do with people. It's amazing to watch what happens with veterans or first responders. First of all, when they first reach out and know that the program exists, the fact that they're saying, hey, I'm interested, you start talking to them, they're very closed, they don't know yet if they should trust you. And then you start that communication of like, what are you looking for? And what is it that you need? And we, on purpose, don't do service dogs all the way to service dogs. We realize they don't need that whole level, and it's so expensive to be able to get to that level. So we try to get them to as perfect as possible. And if that veteran or first responder needs to take it further, we do have partnerships with other people that they can go ahead and take the dog further if they want to.
Yeah, the average service dog might cost anywhere between $30,000 to $50,000. It's extremely common.
Yeah.
And so our approach is, it's just different. It's shorter and it's much less expensive. We can do it for about 1/5 of the cost.
Yeah.
But we want someone to have what we would think of more like a therapy dog, so that dog has that bond with the veteran, but then also their family.
Yeah.
Whereas a service dog is pretty much hands off. This is my service dog. It's just me. Don't touch. It can't be interacting. Where we also test and evaluate all the dogs that we rescue, looking for dogs that have an exceptionally high eagerness to please, and they want that human bond and that human affection.
Yeah, and one of the things that I love about our program is that it's not big square where only thing happen there. Like, it depends on the situation. So we've had cases where we've already had the dog or a couple of dogs, and a veteran can come and meet a couple of dogs and see which dog connects better. We've also gone with the veteran to rescue a specific dog and work with them. We also sometimes work with a dog that the veteran already has and work with them together one-on-ones. It depends on the situation and also on the family. So that part I love, just because, again, you see creating that relationship and they keep coming back, right? So then it's not only we place this dog technically stay under our name. So we keep tabs on that dog and on the veteran. So they have checkup points that they have to meet. They have to make sure that they're up to date into their vaccines, and send me pictures, let us know how they're doing. But also throughout the process, we realize there are certain veterans that are doing better than others and are able to afford certain things. So we are there to be able to help them afford it as well, right? Okay. So they need more food or they need help with taking it to the vet. Like, because we are able to keep tabs, we know that that dog is healthy. Therefore, that veteran or first responder is also healthy, because we're being able to kind of like stay in touch and create that community.
Yeah. I mean, it just sounds like an incredible pairing. I'm just picturing, right? These dogs coming to these families, and just the way, I think you put
I'll
it great.
start sharing with you all the text
Yeah.
messages. It's awesome. They send
like
them in costumes
life-changing,
for
I'm sure.
Halloween, or like I'm starting to get the pictures of them under the tree.
Yeah.
It's the sweetest thing. And again, you see we have females and males, obviously, but a lot of the guys that are so like more tough and serious, then they're all like being all squishy with these dogs, and it's amazing to me to see that soft side. It's great.
The other, really interesting thread, which I know you talked a bit about, Dustin, was the service element as well. And I'd heard about what y'all did during Helene, and that is incredible, that response. Can you talk about that experience? Because you were saying you were up there in the high country for like 5 months.
About 5 months, yeah.
After the hurricane. Yeah. What was that like, and what did your response look like? Because I understand you weren't alone. You were with a group of folks, right?
That is correct. So for us, it came about pretty quickly. We are about 2 hours from here in Charlotte, and only about 3 hours from Asheville. Anywhere in the mountains, Boone to Asheville, give or take 2.5 to 3.5 hours. We also have a bakery as part of our nonprofit in Graham, where everything we do there just goes right back into the organization. We use it as our public face and awareness and stuff. So we were at the bakery that Saturday where the storm had just started clearing, because it hit Friday, and everyone started seeing the news and reports on Facebook and stuff on Saturday. So it was maybe around 3 in the afternoon, she had just started seeing some Facebook posts, and she walked up to me and showed me some of the devastation that started to come out of Buncombe County and Chimney Rock down there at Lake Lure. And it's one of those things where you cannot unsee it. Saudi's from Puerto Rico, and then when Hurricane Maria hammered Puerto Rico so hard several years ago, she and the community down there were amazing, jumped in. I went down there for 8 days with another group of veterans, and I would have stayed for months continuing to help and rebuild. And again, it's very fulfilling, feeling like you're doing something meaningful for people, and probably one of the worst experiences of their lives. But we all know that it's good for your soul, you as a person doing the service. Sometimes we get more out of service than the people we might even be helping, and it keeps us into a good place, especially where veterans struggle from the lack of purpose.
And not to interrupt, but when it happened in Hurricane Maria in Puerto Rico, and I saw his reaction and how he was able to go with these veterans and be so effective, it was literally the switch for me, where we were like, we need to figure out a way to do this, because it was a different person that came out, and he did not want to come back, and you could see how this was what he was meant to be doing. So when it happened again here in North Carolina, it all came back to me. I was like, oh my God, here we go. And it was amazing to watch not only them in action, but the community in action. And being in that bakery, I had to stay behind, because obviously we had the dogs and the bakery and everything else, but we started receiving donations there and collecting everything. And then it was just massive amounts of cars and trucks and horse trailers with donations, bringing it back to the farm, organizing everything, and then they will come back, grab more things, and go. And it was so effective and the way that they can all just kind of like hit the switch and jump
Yeah, I mean,
into action.
It was instant. So when she showed me that Facebook post, I said, I can't unsee this, right? And within an hour, I had 4 or 5 of our veterans say, we'll go. And then within 24 to 48 hours, we had connected with a bunch of other veterans and other groups. And as a matter of fact, we as Charlie Mike and our veterans were the first veterans group to arrive at Swannanoa, Swannanoa, at the Harley-Davidson, where Adam Smith and Savage Freedoms ended up setting up their big operation. Adam is now running for Congress there in Buncombe County and doing a lot of great things and continuing on. But we were the first veterans to link up there before the supplies even started coming in and as the air rescues were even happening in real time. And then it was us and 2 or 3 other veterans groups that really helped build out Swannanoa, the operations in Buncombe County, and then we expanded all around and really helped get things going. Yeah, then I stayed for 5 months. We even went up to Boone for a few weeks. We went back down south, and then I was in eastern Tennessee for about 3 months, helping them, because a lot of people don't realize how bad the eastern part got hit right there too, along in Washington County.
But as veterans, also all the connections from like helicopters, medical equipment, like all of these horses, all of these different
It's
groups.
easy just to jump in because we all have this operational experience from being in combat zones overseas. We could be complete strangers, but it's like, what did you do and what did you do and here's what I did, and we all know the same language. And so those of us that come together and those other guys that come together, we all get together and it's like, we know what to do. And without, again, throwing shade at anybody, whether it's the state or the FEMA or anybody, or in a county that's slow or paralyzed or doesn't know how to respond, if it had not been for the veteran groups like ours and a couple of the church groups and the community groups coming together, where veterans groups, quite candidly, a lot of us took the lead in some of those situations, it was weeks before some of us ever saw FEMA people, or even some of the bigger groups, that would come in. And so we literally were looking at, let me say this, the way we look at it is save life and sustain life. So those first 2 or 3 days, we were literally still saving lives and finding people in those immediate weeks until it takes time for big organizations or the government to come in for the long-term sustainment. We did over 500,000 pounds of distribution, just Charlie Mike, in the first 2 to 3 weeks.
Yeah, that's incredible. And I'm just so grateful that y'all took the initiative to do that, and to your point of using the skills that you have that other people don't have, of survival and saving and rebuilding. I mean, I was based for, the week after Helene in Hickory with
So
the helicopter rescues.
That's where all of our flights were coming out of.
And I was going to say, encountered quite a few veterans who were on those volunteer groups as well. So my hat's off to you. I want to make sure that we talk about how folks can help your organization, because it sounds like you have a lot of different niches. You've got the dogs, you've got the service work. What do you need? How can folks help you?
And it probably sounds cliche at this point to just about anybody that would hear anything like that, but nonprofits work on donations and philanthropy. Even our bakery works with volunteers. Everything that we do goes just right back into the organization. Our Canine Battle Buddy program has costs for the rescue, the rehabilitation, the medical care, and the training. The training has costs and value and is expensive. And then when it comes to disaster relief, of course, we all jump in with a lot of our own vehicles and our own gear and our own equipment and things, but the supplies and fuel and the expendables and the first aid kits and search and rescue things, even things like, drones and satellite phones, all the things that we need to do search and rescue or saving lives or sustainment stuff. And we're gearing up now for the next hurricane season that'll start in June. It all has a cost. So quite frankly, honestly, the best thing I could always say is we always just need help and support financially, or donations or physical goods for relief type work. Our website is pretty simple. It's charliemike.org. The top right of the website, we have a donate button, and in that form, you can choose, does it go to the canine program, the equine program, disaster relief, or just the area of greatest need that our program has. And there's always a need. We had veterans and their families at our farm this weekend there in Alamance County doing horsemanship training. And this, well, gosh, it's like 17 degrees this morning. So once it starts to warm back up a little bit towards the end of February and March, we'll start our next batch of dogs and our next batch of training. So we're looking to raise funds to do, at least 5 or 6 more dogs coming into the spring. And then that training can take anywhere from 2 to 6 months, depending on the dog and depending on the veteran. So there's always a need, and we're always grateful and appreciative of whatever that is and whatever comes in, and we make it work.
We'll remind folks once again, charliemike.org is the website. We had it briefly up here on the stream for you. It's back again. Thank you, Producer James, for that. So that's a look at the website if you want to learn more about the mission. And I'm just once again so grateful for the work that y'all do. Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
I'm so glad.
Yeah, we really appreciate it.
Yeah, I'm so glad that we could connect. And do keep us posted on your projects.
We sure will.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Folks, we will, of course, keep you updated on all of the Charlie Mike happenings as we get more, hopefully, lovely updates. Send the pictures of the dogs with the Christmas costumes and stuff. And with that, we're going to take a quick break, folks. On the other side, our 4 o'clock newscast, and we're back for Live Impact at 7 o'clock tonight. Thanks for being with us.